Sargon of Akkad, Smarmigon of Blockhead, Spudgun of Brickbed, Smarmigon of Baghdad has opinions. He has opinions on Ukraine. And we must know what these opinions are. For he is the man with opinions. All right, fuck. Miss Mortician, the tier one's up. Thank you very much. Oh fuck. Bits. Thanks for the bits, whoever the fuck gave them. I can't even see anymore. J Delphin with another gifted tier one sub. Thank you so much. We're all at level 3. Okay, fuck, go. Sargon. Your contributions have been urgently required. Miss Mortician with 100 bits. Thank you very much. Go.
For so many months, your badge changes.
Yes.
Ostracy for $20 says, much like the spoon debate, talking with Sargon will do nothing if they honestly have the position that NATO and the US is just as bad as Russia.
Meat Sandwich with a gifted tier 1 sub. Thank you very much. Oh, damn. 10 more to go. Oh, fuck. Okay.
There's no way to bridge that divide.
Yeah, well, it's too late now. We sent the link.
There you go. Hey, how you doing, Sargon?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Good. What's up, man?
Oh, man. It is fucking torture. Listening to you guys talk about this.
Is it?
It is genuine. Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, he's leading in.
Holy shit.
Tell us.
I don't even know where to begin, right? So, on one hand, you're like, oh, the agreement was with the USSR, and that's dissolved. So, therefore, blah, blah, blah. And there's...
No, wait, what? Okay, what agreement are they talking about? Are they talking about the fucking 1 inch eastward again? No, that's a bad start. JD Delphin with 5 gifted tier 1 subs. You are on it today. Thank you so much.
Still no weapons in East Germany. But
Wait.
No,
I literally never said
Wait.
You did say this, right?
No, I didn't.
And then, yes, you did. And
well, do you want to
then
do one point at a time, or do you want to do like your
No, I'm
speech
going to lay out my position. Then you
okay,
can
lay out your
right?
position.
And so you say, okay, fine. On paper, theoretically, in a thin sense, the USSR was what that was. No, that's legalistically. But then later on, you were like, oh, as if NATO's just going to disband because Russia isn't the same country. It's like, oh, there we go. Now, I agree with that. That's the real meat of the thing. That's the real way to look at it. But then you can't have it both ways. So if it was really Russia running the USSR, which it was, obviously, then the agreement with the USSR was really with Russia. And so the Russians suddenly look more justified in saying, well, hang on, you broke this agreement not to continue expanding NATO to a border. Right. And it's things.
Okay. So we've looked over this agreement a million times, right? The agreement was to do with very specifically with arrangements in West and East Germany. It was reinterpreted by Yeltsin after he was like struggling to hold power at home, and he needed to have some kind of like foreign enemy thing. It's a very common tactic for any country to have to build up a foreign enemy and a foreign like betrayal to rally your people against something that's not you. Yeltsin admitted himself, he conceded that it was the spirit of the agreement, which is a cope. Like, there was never any promise to not expand NATO eastward. Like, it's just cope. All right, fuck.
It's like this. It's inconsistencies like this that basically belie the assumptions you guys approach this with. And I suppose the question I have to begin with then is Russia and the Russian state that is supported by the Russian people worthy of respect?
Wait,
he's such a fucking moron. Oh God, what a fucking vague question. Like, what? Like, he does this all the time. Like, with these complete non sequiturs. Is Russia worthy of? Is Russia a country? Okay. Miss Mortician with the 5 gifted tier 1 subs. Thank you so much. We reached 400. Holy shit. This is some serious hype. Hype.
Repeat the last thing you just said.
Is Russia, the state and the people who uphold it, worthy of respect?
Right. Okay. So regarding the NATO promise, you're talking about the promise to not move east thing, I assume, right?
Yes.
Okay. So my position, I've heard this position. My position was not, oh, that agreement was made with the USSR and the USSR doesn't exist anymore, so therefore we can throw it away. That was never my position. My position was, was what Gorbachev said himself.
Hey, glad to see it's been a wee while. How you doing? Crashtronomy with 2 gifted tier 1 subs. Thank you very much.
That the agreement was not about
Mortician with 200 bits. Thank you
expanding
very much.
NATO to encompass countries to the east, because at the time that the agreement was made, there were no countries to the east. All those countries were still
Yeah.
part of the Soviet Union, which hadn't fallen yet.
Uh-huh.
The agreement was
But
only
Putin said
about
the same thing with Bush, didn't he?
the agreement was only about Gorbachev, who agreed to this and said it himself, was only about putting military bases in East Germany once the USSR
Yes.
pulled out of it.
Yes.
And he says
Sitch.
himself that US and that NATO fulfilled their end of the bargain in that agreement. And I'm not 100% sure on this. I don't know if you know, if you're knowledgeable in this. I thought that until Russia invaded Crimea in 2014, that basically there wasn't really NATO forces even pushing into the countries that had been expanded to NATO. Until
No, as I
2014.
understand it, military resources are being put into Poland, like missiles and things like this. But I'm no great expert. But
Okay.
Putin also did say to Bush, again, and Bush apparently looked him in the eye and promised him, right? And so you've got this continuity of broken promises from America.
Fucking Miss Mortician, Dreadhead with 100 bits, Crotchonomy, 333 bits, boost, level 5 hype right there. Miss Mortician with however many fucking bits that was. Hey, glad to see. I don't know if you couldn't hear me because you said you couldn't hear me, but yeah, hello, how's it going? Yeah. Been ages, true. I actually sent you a message not very long ago. I was wondering whether or not you got it though. How's the wife? How's business? How's the wife? Listen. What's the 1980s sitcom thing? Take my wife, please. I'd take my wife everywhere, but she finds a way home. All right. Fuck. Sitch is doing a good job already. He knows what the deal is, and Sargon's just gonna fall back onto vague philosophical like bullshit. All right.
Bush promised him what?
That he wouldn't expand NATO east.
No, he didn't.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that promise, but
Okay, well, look it up. This is something Putin said. Now, I don't know, because, and I again, this is why I really, it's your framing on Russia that I can only assume comes from you being American, right? Because of the Cold War and because of the way your politicians talk, right? It's insufferable, and it gives you this perspective on Russia that I think is honestly kind of unfair, right? I've never been to Russia. I only know like 2 Russians.
I've been to Russia.
Good for
Nice.
you. Right?
I'm of
I
Russian
have-
descent, Sargon. It's in my blood.
I believe it.
What is that supposed to be?
Why'd you bring it up?
Jeez.
I have no interest in Russia. Right? I've never been on Russia Today. I don't care. The only time Russia ever enters into my daily life is when there's an American politician saying Russia hacked the elections. Right? That's the only time until now, obviously. But the thing I really want to talk to you about is, again, does Russia deserve any respect? Is it a legitimate country?
Just ask a fucking normal question, Sargon, you fucking moron. If you have nothing and you just want to appeal to like vague like nonsense, just say that. Just be like, well, I don't really have any fucking idea what I'm talking about. So I will just ask you, is Russia a real country with real people? Okay. I'm going to do this a lot. I don't care. It's not going to get old to me.
Country? Do they have a right to exist?
Well, I mean, what do you mean by like? I don't think the country should be destroyed and the people killed. But I
Take
don't
it however
think.
you interpret.
Yeah, but I don't think Putin should be respected in terms of. I don't think Putin's government is legitimate.
According to what standard?
I don't think that.
Level 5 hype train, guys. Holy shit. Cock it. I wonder if they're going to... They're not giving me the boost, though, are they? Oh, well. Maybe next time. Thank you so much, guys. 20 subs in, like... I've been on for, what, 30 minutes? Shit. Thank you.
Autocracies where a dictator just seizes power and then just fucks over the rest of their country is worthy of respect.
Yeah, but you said earlier that Putin didn't just seize power; he was granted it. He was passed it by Gorbachev.
Yeah.
Nay.
Gorbachev can become leader
Yeah,
of
but
Russia.
what standard are you using?
The standard of believing in Western liberal democracy.
Right. Russia is Russia.
I know it. They don't believe in Western liberal democracy.
No, no, it's not that they don't believe in it. It's that if I were to characterize countries, right, in short, pithy phrases, right, I would say England is the Shire, right? I would say France is up its own arse with its own greatness. I'd say Germany is secretly a giant danger to the entire world. Right? The Germans know this.
As they always have been. Yeah.
I would say America was probably God's chosen land.
Yes.
You've been
Thank you.
gifted all of the best of all things, right? And if I would characterize Russia, I would call it a land of suffering.
Bro.
Okay, I would agree with all this so far.
Right.
Keep going.
Okay. So why judge them by the God-given standards of America?
What?
That's like saying a
So you're
short
taking
person
like a
shit at
moral
basketball because they
relativist
can't
position
dunk.
here, basically.
Russia is a shithole, therefore. Oh, God.
Right? No, it's true, right?
Is it?
For
Is it
the,
true?
for the standards of Russia,
Mhm.
Putin is not a terrible leader.
I'm not
Right?
blaming
In
the
living
people,
memory,
though. I'm
they've
not
had
saying that the
much,
Russian.
much worse leaders.
Of course, they were under fucking communism
Right.
for
Yeah, I know.
60,
No,
70 years.
But I mean, you've probably got some sort of 120-year-old babushka somewhere in Siberia who can remember the weak Tsar, right?
Right.
You've
Well, I hope not.
That's probably not
you-
true.
you are acting as if Russia should land on its feet with English institutions like America did. Right? It
No, I'm not.
can't
English.
happen. It
I'm not.
can't
No,
be
no.
done.
Okay, hold
right?
on.
Hang on, no, they are
Sargon, do you-
geographically hamstrung. They're historically hamstrung.
Okay.
Right, and so you approaching it with this high and mighty, we're fucking better than you, and you're basically evil from our perspective, is to say that they are innately and intrinsically evil, and that can't change.
Well,
Because they
I've
can't
never
simply
said that.
change their
I mean,
history.
That's a strong.
Yeah, but this
man.
is your act. This
No,
is
no,
the
no,
way
no,
you
no.
approach
Listen.
them.
Okay.
You like
So-
okay, no, stop.
Wait, wait,
There is no
wait,
such
stop.
thing as a Russian government that is not autocratic.
So,
Can't,
So
I
you
don't
can
have-
always an autocrat. Yeah, duh.
so,
He's
so
Russian.
I don't have any problem with the Russian people, okay, or the population. I'm not criticizing the Russian people. I'm not saying that they deserve, to be. I've seen people on social media saying, "Oh, like Russian people deserve to be killed for this," and blah 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 blah. I even
Obviously, I'm
went
not saying
on.
you say
I even had.
Couldn't you say this about every like human atrocity? Like it's just going to be expected because this is what like the countries are like it's because of their geographical and like historical inheritance. Can you say this about all the bad things that have ever happened? Couldn't Sargon of Akkad say this about why Europe takes in refugees and immigrants? Like, and he can't complain about it because that's like the hand that the cosmos gave us.
Stream that a lot of people disagreed with. I think it was last Sunday or last Tuesday where I was saying that the individual Russian soldiers are not culpable for the decisions of their government.
True.
And I don't want to see them like all get slaughtered the way some people
course.
are cheering for. Okay. I put the blame 100% solely on a single person in Russia.
Okay,
on
but the
Vladimir
blame isn't
Putin.
100% on one person.
It's on Vladimir Putin's shoulders in the
Yeah.
way that he's running
Putin.
his country because since he is an autocrat, the decisions are all his decisions to make.
True.
The people didn't
There
elect
is
him. They
no
don't
other
have the
way to
choices
run
elect
Russia
someone else.
at this point in time.
What'd you say?
There is no other way to run Russia.
can that change incrementally over time, Sargon? I'm curious.
It was barely 10 years ago when Medvedev was pursuing like amicable relations and engaging in amicable relations with the United States. What the fuck is this moron talking about? God damn it. Like, the Dunning-Kruger effect, like, I can't stress enough just like how, like, it's almost like that term was invented for Sargon of Akkad. Like, an entire fucking career. He's been doing this like political YouTube shit for nearly 10 years. He's been doing it since like 2014. Since actually around the same time when Russia stopped pursuing amicable relations with the United States. Like, this is what it does. He's had so much opportunity to learn, to reassess his worldview, to like pick up one or two things, and he just hasn't. He's just consistently, smugly wrong for the last 8 fucking years, and probably before then as well. Jesus. Well, England is the Shire. Am I wrong? Prove to me that I'm wrong. Fucking Dunning of Crudcad, yeah. Dunningon of Crudcad. Nice. Nice one, commie scum.
Or Carl. I'm trying to call you Carl now.
Whichever you prefer. I don't care. But like, I mean, given the history of Russia, I'm not going to be optimistic about it. Like,
Okay, but so that might be true. I don't know if that's true or not. But look, even if I were to grant you that and say,
well, it's neither
that-
true nor false because it's indeterminate because we're talking about
Right.
the future.
but I'm saying like, you know, right after the Soviet
What? If it's neither true nor false, then why the fuck are you saying it? You just said it like it was a positive statement.
Union collapses, you know, it would be, I agree, it would be silly to think that a country that's been an empire for thousands of years, that then transforms into a communist empire for 60, 70 years, is going to just magically become, you know, a Western liberal democracy.
Right, but then
And-
why say,
and-
oh,
well,
well, Putin's bad because he's an autocrat?
Well, hold on. Okay. And
It
as
doesn't make
someone brought up
sense.
a good point, which is that the last 20 years of Russia has been like the only time in Russia's thousands of year history that it hasn't been an empire. Okay. So I understand that there's like all these pressures here. And I understand that it would be ridiculous to assume that Russia is going to become a magical Western liberal democracy. Okay. But there's a huge difference between me saying, I understand why situations have turned out the way they are, and me justifying the way situations are.
Honestly, I think this is a position you're making up because you're being challenged on what you've said so far.
I've literally held this position.
No, I don't agree.
Repeatedly.
I don't believe that you have. I think you might
I've held
say
wait,
that
wait.
you do.
I've held the
No, hang on.
position
You might
that
say
you can
that do,
understand and empathize someone without
but you
justifying
make
their
a
position
bunch of other assumptions.
since day one of this stream.
You
What are
make
you
a bunch
talking
of other statements that completely betray that statement. Right?
Okay, so to be clear, you're saying you have no problem with what I just said, but you think I just said this now for the first time.
Oh no,
I'm
I think
actually
you wish that you held that position, but you fall back into a position that is remarkably.
Okay, he's actually more unhinged than he usually is. Like, I don't really pay that much attention to Sargon anymore because he's not really relevant, but has he actually lost his mind? He used to try to, like, engage with points, but now he's just gone. These two guys are his friends as well. And he's just jumping in there saying, like, giving, like, really, like, vague, like, nebulous, meaningless statements and then going to them and saying, I don't think you've really thought about this. Like, what the fuck? This is insane. This is like watching a downfall. God.
What are you
supremacist,
basing this on?
right? This stream, frankly,
Okay.
Give me
and
something
previous
specific.
ones, the one
Give me
with
something
Spoon as well.
specific.
My God, like
You just gave me the cultural relativism woke argument, so I don't
It
know how to
is-
respond to this.
it is the problem that it is your culture and it is your unknowing.
My white European
Oh, no.
culture, yes.
Yeah, no, it is. It is kind of a privilege, right? And this is what I've always felt whenever I've dealt with Russians. Right? I've always felt that I was fucking lucky to be English and they were unlucky to be Russian.
Of course.
Now, you say of course, right? But that you're glossing over just the depth of the suffering in that country.
If I went back in time and every time I used the word Russia in this stream, I just said Putin, which I agree would be more appropriate, would we be having this conversation?
You can't really separate Putin from Russia here, right? He is a product of that suffering too.
Well,
And the people who
yeah,
like
sure,
him,
to some extent.
Right,
But he's
like-
a product of
not to
realizing
some
how to be
extent,
corrupt.
100%, he is a product of that fucking suffering,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah, but that
And
doesn't justify. Wait, that doesn't just someone's suffering doesn't justify them becoming a monster.
They're not monsters. There we
okay.
go.
Yeah, let's just, I wouldn't even let him do this. I would just say, like, okay, let's talk about what they should do and what they shouldn't do. Like, that's it. You don't fucking take, like, Sargon will try so hard to steer you into these conversations that into like statements and questions that can't really be answered normally. Like, that's what he does. He'll just try to fucking like anchor the conversation into his weird fucking like one-dimensional world where you just say things that you can't verify or invalidate. Like,
Vladimir
God.
Putin
No,
is
you
a
say it
monster.
yourself. He's a fucking monster. No, he's the best leader Russia has had in over 100 years.
still a monster.
He is not genociding them.
That's a fucking low bar if I ever. True. Actually, Putin is not genociding the Russians. That's Was Medvedev doing that? Or Yeltsin? Or Gorbachev? What? Okay. Yeah.
But literally, tens of millions.
That's
of
a pretty
people were
low bar.
killed
Very low bar.
Adam
for
friended.
you.
Okay, I take it back. Adam is actually like just standing next to Sargon. He actually looks really smart right now. Nice.
The low bar.
You're right for me, of course. What are
Yeah,
you talking
okay.
about?
I think a
This
lot of
isn't
people
you
would say
we're
that's a low
talking
bar.
about.
But you could.
We're
like,
talking
this-
about
This sounds like
Russians.
what's that guy's name? This sounds like Danny Fayong making bullshit rationalizations
I
for the
don't care
Uyghur
what
genocide.
it sounds like. This
No,
is
but
what
you can make
reality
the
is
same.
like
Wait,
in
you
Russia,
can make the
man.
same argument, Sargon, on the same principle. Say,
Sargon has read realism. He's read the definition of realism like probably while high, and then or whatever the fuck. It's gone through the Sargon of Akkad filter, and now it's just coming out even more incoherent than it originally was.
well, listen. Xi's really good for China. He's lifted all these people out of poverty.
No,
Communist
he
China
is
is doing the
engaged
best
in
for
a
China
genocide.
it's ever fucking
He's
done.
actively engaged in a genocide, right? Look,
But why does that
Putin,
matter?
By our standards. What do you mean, why does that matter?
But that's by our standards. What?
Yes, that is-
us caring
that
about
is
the Uyghur
by
genocide
our
is liberal
standards.
Western standards. Who
Let me
cares?
finish, right? But they're both bad by our standards, right?
Yes.
But by Chinese
I know Medvedev was a puppet of Putin. Okay, I've said that. I've said that in I've said that on my main channel. The point is that under Medvedev, and I guess Putin was part of this decision making as well, if you want to say that Russian and NATO relations were far more amicable than they are now. Putin could have joined NATO. Like there was an open door to NATO, like open to Russia by NATO for quite a while. It's just that Putin didn't want to be like he didn't want to go through like the same process that every other country does. He thought he deserved like special treatment. So okay. Well.
standards, Z is not good either, right?
I don't know if that's true at all.
Of course that's true.
I don't know if that's true.
Was it in the 50s that the communists took over? Again, it's within living memory
God,
that there
he's
were
fucking
better options in China,
screeching.
man. Right, but that you don't have that in Russia. In Russia, you just have worse and worse and worse the further back you go, right? And this is not to say that Putin
Well, no, I mean,
Aiko with 108 people rating. Oh my god. Hello, Aiko. How's it going? We are watching Sargon of Akkad. Probably, I think this is the craziest I've ever heard him. I don't think I've heard him as mental as this for like a really long time. Getting fucking annihilated by two of his friends and shit. Oh, and thanks for the tier 1 sub for 6 months now, Aiko. Thank you so much. We are ramming that sub goal. Holy shit. Shall I extend it? Ooh. No, it's fine. Just if you feel like subbing, that's nice. Okay, we'll just put it that way. All right.
I mean, the
good
communists
guy,
could have
and we
lost
should
to the
support
more
him or anything
liberals
like that, which
during
is
the revolution.
what you said about me earlier. I fucking said, oh, I just oppose what the media said. No, I know a lot more about this situation than you'd think. And I don't give a fuck what the media say.
Well,
on this,
but-
right?
okay.
They're
Copium.
both wrong
Oh, the ultimate. Yeah, okay. Keep going.
both ways, basically.
So,
Can we structure this to where you can lay out an argument? You guys are kind of
well,
talking
but
over
his
one another.
his argument is that
Oh my god, I'm warming up to this guy so much. He said 2 things and they've both been based as shit. The first one, that's a pretty low bar, dude. And the second one, can we just like make an argument? Damn. He's choosing his words carefully. What a fucking dude. All right.
we shouldn't be judging Putin from our privileged American
yes,
standard.
Putin
That is your
not a monster.
Okay.
This is the thing. You are treating him like
Fuck
a
it.
monster, and he's actually not.
I think
It's hard. It's hard to think of a more legitimate kind of leader that Russia could have.
Mhm.
Do
So-
you understand? Right?
no,
Like,
I don't, because both
Right, go on.
Gorbachev and Yeltsin were far more open Even Medvedev, for fuck's sakes, was far more open to having, positive relations with the West and moving towards a more Western system of things than Putin. I don't buy into this belief or frame that you're trying to set up that Putin is literally the only option that's available to Russia. That being an autocrat who sucks up all the country's resources, makes himself the richest person on the planet, and murders anyone who fucking opposes him is the only choice available to Russia.
No, that's just a Russian choice. You're going to get that no matter who you have in charge of Russia.
You didn't have that. He's just saying you didn't have that with Medvedev.
We didn't have that with Gorbachev. We didn't have that with Yeltsin. We didn't have that with Medvedev.
I don't believe that for a second, right?
Okay, well...
I don't believe that under the Soviet Union, they weren't killing dissidents. Right?
Mate, are you fucking kidding me? They were talking about Medvedev and Sargon's talking about the Soviet Union. Oh my God. What the fuck? Are you fucking joking, Carl? I know a lot more about this than you might think. Well, Medvedev pursued relations with America, and they were a lot more amicable than Putin does. Listen, you can't tell me that the Soviet Union were not opposed to the United States. Oh, God.
Or anything like that.
I'm dying.
Because one of the things the Soviets are really good is just not talking about it.
They were moving towards trying to become a more Western liberal democracy, or at least have more positive relations with the West.
And it would be
Putin is going in the exact opposite direction.
Yeah, yeah.
He didn't know any of this.
Something to do with America's positioning on this.
Probably.
It's because he doesn't want to get Gaddafi.
Yeah.
Okay.
That seems reasonable, doesn't it?
That seems reasonable for him. That's not the moral position to have for the betterment of your country.
The moral position is that Putin gets Gaddafi'd, is it?
I never said that. Don't.
You just did.
Don't Kathy Newman me.
You just did.
No, right? I said.
So it's reasonable.
Do you think
for anyone to say that Putin shouldn't be Gaddafi'd, right?
Because
what happened to Gaddafi, whether you like Gaddafi or not, wasn't nice, was it?
No, of course not.
Right.
What
so we
I
don't want
said.
Gaddafiisms.
What I said was that a leader of a country doing everything in their power, including sacrificing the well-being of their own country or their surrounding countries, just to shore up their power, is not the morally ethical position to take.
It is to shore up Russia's power.
It's not. It's to shore up Putin's power.
Is,
that's the big difference.
Because you're treating Russia as if it has no legitimacy.
I'm treating Putin as if he has no legitimacy.
There is no distinction here between Putin and Russia.
Well, I guess that's the disagreement that we have, because I think there is a difference, or there could be a difference.
Well, I mean, hypothetically there could be, but in real life there's not. Like saying that Putin is a populist. Yeah, he's a populist. Like, didn't you not see him go out in a stadium, Trump style, and give a "Russia's so great, let's wave our Russian flag" speech? He's the total populist, right?
But he would arrest anyone that came in.
Is like Macron a populist? Because you see how many fucking French flags wave. Oh my God. Okay.
Into that stadium that protested against him. How can you say that's populism?
Because Russian nationalism is a different beast to American nationalism.
Of course.
Beast.
You say of course, but
of course.
But Adam just asked, well, he arrests bad people, the people are opposing.
Hey, don't make fun of Adam's dumbass voice.
The populist label.
Don't do that, Sargon.
Not the nationalist label.
It doesn't mean he's not a populist, right? And he's just a Russian. And again, it's cultural misunderstanding.
No. But it's just about because the populism is usually like this. Oh, we're anti-elites, and if you literally have oligarchs who are the elites, it seems, and he's the master elite. It seems strange to categorize him as a populist who's against the elites.
Yeah, if any populist showed up in that,
you can. Unfortunately, the thing with populism is that it's not people versus the establishment. Populism is actually very rarely that. Populism is people against the perceived establishment. That's why Trump got away with being a populist, because to the people he was saying that, he was giving those arguments to, the establishment was like college professors or just any rich person who wasn't on the side of Trump. Putin can do the same thing. He can do the populist thing and just say the establishment is, I don't know, the United States, or fucking the what did he call them? The foie gras oyster eating gender freedom lovers. Yeah. Populism is a lot more about rhetoric than actually ideology, I think.
That auditorium and protested against the elites, what would happen to those people?
Yeah.
I'm not sure the people who'd be protesting would be considered to be populists, frankly. I think they'd be liberals.
Well, there are people in Russia that are protesting the war. They're getting arrested. Those aren't the populists?
Yeah, of course. No.
Okay.
The populists are the people who live, they're the people in the cities, right? They're the liberal elites who live in the cities. And the populists are the ones who live out in the hinterlands and think Mother Russia great.
I think
we're
you're
being beaten by the Americans. We need to expand ourselves to gain our self-respect.
Well, I guess you could look at that framework only if you're going to broaden populism to outside of the individual country, to looking at it in some sort of like global elite stage. That's the only way you could frame the argument you're making.
The Russians see themselves as a people, and they see themselves as a people acting on the world stage.
I understand
as far as many of them are concerned, Putin is an effective leader.
Okay.
Do you think they would have that same perspective if they had access to global media?
Oh.
I don't know.
Ooh.
Probably.
So, under your framework that you're laying out, is Putin, like, is there a level at which Putin stops becoming justified, depending on?
Okay. Of course there are, but of course, you know, like, I'm not trying to say that Putin is good, right? I'm trying to say he's Russian.
You're saying he's the best Russia can accomplish. You have like super stations, basically.
Like, yes. Oh God, yes, exactly.
Bigotry of low expectations.
You need to have super low expectations.
Bigotry of low expectations. Adam, my guy, keep on doing it. Coming in with the steel chairs, with the incredibly calm, sort of slow.
Right.
But why the fuck should I? But you could be, even if that's all true, why the fuck should that affect my moral weight on the situation? Why should that affect my moral opinion on the situation?
Because your moral opinion is unrealistic.
It doesn't matter. The world has to interact. You and me and everyone that lives in the world has to interact with terrible people who are almost always.
Okay, like, Sitch is doing a good job here, and Adam is like also just he's learned when to stop talking. Maybe, I don't know. He's doing good too. They need to just hone him in. Like, even from Sargon's perspective, invading Ukraine is bad regardless. It's making Putin look fucking terrible. It's isolating him. It's hurting his own people. He's gonna have to deal with the fact. He's gonna have to deal with the fact that that all these parents are gonna have to see their kids returning home in fucking coffins, and he's gonna have to like find a way for the state media to work its way around that shit. Like, what happens when Russia fails in Ukraine, which they might very well do, or worse, or even like, you know, they succeed and then they just end up holding a country that is hell bent on getting them out. Either way, they're going to lose a fuck ton more lives doing it. And they can't contain this information in the way they used to be able to. Like, this is why the electoral fraud thing was such a problem in 2010 and 11, because they did the same thing before that, but they just couldn't contain the information with social media and all that shit, like just exposing them right, left, and center. Adam's best as a foil to Sitch and being quiet. True. All right.
Always terrible for reasons that they're not in their control, because their brains fucked up or horrible shit happened to them. That doesn't mean it justifies what they're doing, and we just say, well, you know, that's the roll of the dice. That's the best they could accomplish.
Yeah, but what you're saying then is that the Russians should act like an English-speaking liberal democracy.
I never said anything about what the Russian population should be doing in this situation.
What? Tell me.
I just joined this argument trying to justify Putin's position. Sargon it's not even trying to justify. He's trying to say that, so I'll just give the steel man of what Sargon's trying to do, because it's basically like realism he's trying to do in a very, like, I almost said a slur, stupid way. Realism is basically the idea that whether or not, it's like a contrast to liberal foreign policy. So realism basically says that we may have these liberal ideals, but we unfortunately live in a real world where lots of countries will not act according to liberal standards. They'll just do whatever is the best thing for them. They'll just act in their own interests. And as much as we don't like it, we need to act as if that political reality exists. So, for example, if keeping if like denying Ukraine like a degree of sovereignty when it comes to joining NATO would guarantee their safety from Russia, then even though it's very illiberal of us to do that, we should do that to minimize damage. It's the idea that we have to just assume that these like tyrannical states and autocratic regimes will act beyond liberal expectations, and we need to live according to that rather than according to liberal rules, because we can't just like arrest fucking countries and take them to the international courts because they're like violating liberal standards. The problem with realism, though, is that if you take that all at its face value, if you actually believe them and say that Russia will behave in this way, that Russia will fuck with countries when it suits them, that actually supports the argument for Ukraine to join NATO. Because they wouldn't do it if Ukraine was in NATO. Russia's never attacked a NATO country. So but unfortunately, that theory, which I imagine probably has some value in the academic world, probably like the same way that like game theory is quite like academically interesting, but maybe not that well applied to the real world. But the problem with that theory is that it's gone through the filter that is Sargon of Akkad's brain. And he's meshing in with his whole, like, I'm going to sum up England as the Shire and Russia as suffering, and therefore we must acknowledge Russia's suffering. And then, I don't know. Yeah.
What you're saying, then.
I'm saying Putin is not fucking justified in invading Ukraine.
True.
You told
Back to basics.
everyone how he was
Bread and butter.
justified earlier.
Meat and
Because
potatoes.
if he loses all of his allies and then he gets overthrown, he gets Gaddafi'd, right? And
He's
so from
not
Putin's
morally
perspective,
justified under my moral framework.
under your
Sargon.
absolute liberal framework, fine.
Yes.
Okay, stop comparing Russia to that because it's not a liberal democracy.
So should every conversation that's ever had in the entire world
every conversation
drop down into this insane
Be
cultural relativistic
practical.
argument where we say, listen,
Right.
why should poor people and why should anyone in America have to live up to American standards of being on time and going to work? I mean, why don't they
Being
just
on
have their
time.
own cultural values, right? I mean, that's the white people values. Why can't non-white people have their own fucking cultural values that they can do and they can prosper in? Like, this is
I mean, I'd say 'cause they're
insane
American.
woke bullshit
I'd say 'cause
argument
they're
that we've been
American
fighting this
in this
channel
respect.
for like 3 fucking years.
This is Sitch, this isn't woke bullshit.
It is woke bullshit.
No, this is political realism. Because this
There
is
we
why
go.
Russia is doing all of this. It's because of a
That's a
fundamental lack of
description.
respect
That's
for their
not a normative
civilization.
fucking claim.
Right?
True.
That's why they're doing
Oh, they were watching Destiny. That's why they're doing that's a description, not a moral claim. Yeah. Okay.
this. They feel like America doesn't respect their civilization.
Carl, you're not a moral relativist. I've heard you say many times that you believe Western civilization has a greater culture, a better culture.
Yes, of course.
You
know I'm
debated
pro-West.
Quackademic Agent on this, and you
Yes, I know,
destroyed him.
And I know because exactly. Oh my god, exactly. Which is why I wish you'd fucking listen to me, right?
Yeah, but you're taking an opposite position that you took in that debate. You're basically
it is-
taking
Did
a
you destroy
moral
it?
relativist position. You're saying,
Because there is
listen, we
no
have these
one
values and we
absolute
can't.
position on this.
We have to
There is no
accept
one
their
absolute
values.
position
Well,
on
no, we
this.
don't have to accept their values. We can say, listen, your values fucking suck.
Now,
Oppressing-
okay, and then what happens is if you go down Sargon's road and say countries will behave in their own interests, well, you might say America's God's chosen land or whatever, but a part of being God's chosen land is been built on a lot of fucking imperialism. And America, as well as the EU, have a lot of incentive to be dealing with Ukraine when Ukraine's not getting invaded. So the realism then is if Putin invades Russia, then realism would dictate that Europe and America responds and tries to make that invasion as difficult as possible and tries to stop it from happening. The problem with like this realist perspective that people are taking is that they're only applying it to Russia and not to the United States or Europe. Or the rest of the world for that matter. Like, why just because some countries have liberal standards, suddenly they fall out of the purview of realism. And Russia should have considered that that political realism when they went into Ukraine. The fact that they didn't is kind of why they're so fucked right now. Like you could just as well, like sanctions, you could justify that with realism as well. It's in the West's interest to make this invasion, to get this invasion finished as quickly as possible, to get the Russians to pull back. That's why it's sending weapons. It's in their interest to make the invasion as difficult as possible so that Russia like reconsiders. Like this is, anyway.
Your
You don't
people
have to
and
adopt
stifling
their values.
stifling
adopt their
debate through the
values.
boot and like
But you
choosing
have to
who I
understand
compete
their
against.
values.
No, I
You
do
have to understand them. No, you
We've
don't.
explained that. Well, I think we've explained their values pretty
No,
clearly.
you don't
You said I
understand
did. You
Russia
said I
at all,
understood his
right?
Putin's fear. I understand it completely.
Yeah, but you don't understand why they
He doesn't want to get
show them
Gaddafi.
respect.
We're all in agreement.
It's
right?
not just that, right? It's
Putin's chances of getting Gaddafi are probably higher now than they were anyway.
not just that. Of course, Putin doesn't want to get Gaddafi, but the Russians see themselves as the inheritors of a great civilization.
Dude,
And the Americans don't respect them at all. In fact, they demonize them on a daily basis.
who has
right?
stood in the way of Russia achieving the cultural power that they once had historically? Who is standing in the way of that?
Well, right now,
Yes.
well, the United States with NATO, obviously.
Putin is the one standing in the way of that. Putin has stifled
Right.
innovation in Russia for the last 20 years.
That's not their concern.
They're not a free and fair
That's your
society.
concern. That's an
And he's wasting all their fucking money on invading Ukraine, sending their little boys to fucking die and shit, like when they clearly don't want to be there. Okay, nice one.
American concern.
Well, that's how you're going to move up in the world culture.
Yes.
That's an American view.
Well,
Well,
it,
that's
not a Russian.
That's reality.
it's a Western values
It's
view. It
one
is.
way of interpreting the world.
I mean, well,
Are there frameworks other than realism? Yeah, liberalism. Like there'd be liberalism, which is when you have a set of like moral standards for what countries should do, and that's why you've got like, so that's kind of the framework that most people come under. And then I think there's a third one which is more like anarchist based, but I wish I'd asked Celery about this because Celery does foreign like policy shit. I think there are three. I'm pretty sure there are three, but I need to ask about the third one. But basically, the big conflict that's happening with Russia and Ukraine is that there is liberal and realist.
so how is Russia going to move up in the world otherwise? By conquering its neighbors again? Are we going back
I mean,
to
that's
that
the
value
way
system?
they've done it for the last 1,000 years. Yeah.
Okay. So if that's their position, why should I respect that? I can understand
Right. So
that,
we've
but
got
why
to the
should I
point where
respect
you finally
it?
admit that you don't respect Russia.
Why should
I
we,
don't
though?
respect the hypothetical
Right.
you're
You don't
laying out.
respect
I don't
Russia.
know if
That's
it's
fine.
actually
Just
true or not.
admit what you are.
We don't. We
What
don't
you
respect.
are.
Listen, we don't
No.
respect autocrats. I mean, that's,
Sargon, you're not the
God.
voice of Russia. Okay, I'm engaging with the argument.
I
you're
am in
putting
this
forward.
conversation because you're not going to understand them.
I don't.
Oh, friended. Why should I respect autocrats, bro? Fucking nailing it. I really like this new style of Adam Friended because when he was talking to Jangles, he just got really angry and really fucking obtuse and he didn't understand any of the point. Yeah, this is a much better arc he's taken here though. Just chill, just relax. If you're a slow guy, if you're a chill dude, just embrace that,
Believe that you have the psychic connection to understand the collective unconsciousness of Russia.
Sargon.
Okay, but then you're
Engaging
American,
with
and everyone
you
thinks Americans
and
are
your
fucking ignorant for a reason.
opinions.
Right,
Okay.
literally-
one at a time, guys. Let's
like,
just have a nice
Everyone thinks Americans are
conversation.
ignorant for a reason, right? And this conversation shows it,
Oh
right?
god.
Oh, no, don't go down this.
Obviously,
Don't go down the
obviously,
spoon
right?
route. Come on, Carl. Let's be
Yeah,
friends
but
here.
he's right and you're wrong, right? You have
Spoon?
to understand. Like it's the worst. It's the most cringe thing in the world.
You
You
haven't.
guys,
If
when
we
you
were-
guys talk about liberal
You
democracy,
haven't. You keep making the same point, and then you don't explain anything.
what would you like me
Why-
to? What don't you understand?
I can completely understand Putin, or even if it's true, the broader Russian perspective about what they want their place in the world to be. That doesn't mean I have to respect it or justify it morally.
Right. So
These are
you
two
don't respect
completely
Russia.
different things.
Yeah,
No,
totally.
you don't respect Russia.
I
That's
don't
what you're saying.
respect your position of what you're claiming Russia's position is.
But that's
and if
what they say.
If
They
that's
just
Russia's
explicitly
position,
say it.
Well,
if
one
it
at a
will
time.
make
One
you
at a
feel
time.
better-
Just one at a
if it'll
time.
make you
guys.
feel better for this conversation, if that's Russia's position, then no, I don't respect it. Okay.
Right. Okay. So you want to see Russia crushed?
I want to see them adopt a
Crushed.
system that doesn't destroy, doesn't fuck
Yeah,
over
you can
everyone
want-
around them.
That's you've got to understand they're not going to agree to what you're saying.
Define crushed.
You don't.
Well, you-
so
you
you
tell
don't think
me.
anyone can change? You don't think any country can change?
Things change all the time, Sage.
Okay, then why are you saying this? You have this
Because
fatalistic
they
argument.
change in line with the existing position that they're in line with the
Why
operating
did
and animating
Japan
principles
become
of
a
the
Western
culture.
democracy after
Because they got
becoming an
nuked.
empire for
That's why.
thousands
Western
of years?
They got
democracy.
nuked. That's why.
Okay, is that the only reason you think?
Yeah, that's absolutely
Wait. Wouldn't a realist argue to nuke Russia then? I don't know if that fucking...
the reason.
Okay.
Complete nuked, complete and total surrender. That's the reason, right? The Russians didn't get that treatment. They got the slow decline and collapse, right? So the Russians are currently in a state of humiliation, like the Chinese were.
Yeah, they are.
Like this-
Totally.
Yeah, exactly, right? And Sitch is saying they don't deserve respect.
You know what the Chinese did though to
I don't care.
fix
Do they
their
deserve
situation?
respect or not? Do they deserve respect or not? And the answer is
Why
no.
do you keep
Well,
trying to
well,
frame it this way?
Because
Yeah.
that's what they care about.
Do you?
No, I mean,
what do you base
you're
respect on? Sargon, merit, or do you base respect on? Well, what do you-
Consideration for their position.
What if their position sucks?
Let's have that.
Wait, what if their position sucks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Their position sucks, right? Their
Okay.
position
Okay,
absolutely sucks.
So why should I respect that position if it sucks?
Because they're stuck with it.
So, just out of sympathy, out of
well,
sorrow for
your
them.
options then are to deal with them in a respectful way or crush them. So
Well, if you're
which
a
one
realist,
would
you crush
like?
them. Right?
Our options are to either respect the shitty position or crush them.
Can we
Okay.
can we step back for a second because
No, this is important.
Well, no,
You're at the right point
I've
here.
There's no.
So you're on the cusp of an understanding here, right?
Well, I don't feel like any
you're
level
right,
of
no.
respect would change the situation. Though.
No, 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 no.
You've
Why not?
set up this
Why not?
criteria where respect of Putin would have made him not
Appeasement.
invade.
He just wants to say appeasement. And it's not because he's afraid of Russia. It's because he likes Putin more than he likes Western leaders. That's it. Okay.
His next door neighbor, and I just
Yes.
fundamentally disagree with that. That's
I mean,
like
It's
You can give 'em all the
for
respect
Russia's
in the world.
interests, right? You're not treating Russia as if they're a great power, whereas the Russians view themselves as a great power.
mhm.
What do you mean? Like
Well-
you are not respecting Russia as a great power. This was inevitable that they would start lashing out because of that. Like this is just diplomacy 101,
right.
right?
No,
you,
I mean,
you are doing nothing to negotiate or compromise with the Russians, right? You're demanding everything on America's terms in language that the Russians probably don't even really comprehend, frankly, to standards to which they could never really adhere.
That is not true.
That's
not
exactly
true.
what you've done.
No, NATO and America has been trying, especially
done
like
nothing
Obama.
wrong.
No,
Right?
Obama
Has
had
done
an
nothing wrong.
entire thing for 4 years when Putin wasn't president to try to reset America-Russian relations. And they bent over backwards, and every Republican in this country called Obama a fucking apology tour through Europe, apology tour towards Russia. He was bending over to Russia. Fucking Mitt Romney was criticizing for this. Everyone was. And the second Putin went back in office, he went back on all the progress they made and said, "Fuck you, America."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because
so
of
this
the way
idea
the
that
Americans
America's just sitting here
react.
spitting in Russia's eye is not true.
I don't agree. I think that America has spat in Russia's eye, and I don't blame America for doing it. Right? I don't blame America.
No, but I'm
for
saying
doing it.
you're laying out a framework where you're saying America and NATO is just punching Russia in the face, and that's not accurate. Russia,
Oh, I don't. Agree
America
with that at
and
all.
NATO have
I think
made
that's a totally accurate
overtures
characterization.
time
Spitting in
and
that eye.
time
one at a time,
again.
guys. Come on.
Russia
One
and
at a time,
America,
guys.
America and NATO has made
Relax.
overtures time and time again, and Vladimir Putin is not him personally. He's not having it because he hates
on-
the West
on
and everything they
terms-
stand for.
On terms that no, I don't agree that he hates the West and everything they stand for.
He's been pretty
I don't think
vocal
that's-
about it, but
Nah,
Yep. He
I
has.
think
Sargon. He
that
has.
this is about the terms, right? Because America is, again, like when I said conquering the world in self-defense, like I don't understand how you can rationalize NATO literally getting to Ukraine and being like, right, we're going to try and fast track Ukraine into NATO,
they did.
and for the Russians not to see that.
They did the
as the
opposite of that. Though.
expansion.
That didn't happen.
Oh, right. So they didn't have the fast track thing. Like
They
you said.
didn't. They literally did the opposite of that.
But George Bush wanted to put him on that, right?
Yeah, George Bush did, and NATO said no.
Right. Right.
George Bush
But
is a
why
fucking
America
neocon
trying-
crazy person. I'm not going to
Yeah,
defend.
but why
George
is
Bush's
America trying to get the buffer states at Russia's border into NATO?
We want to
talking
show.
about George? Why did George Bush want Ukraine in NATO? Or are you talking about why does
Yeah.
the general whole?
Yeah.
Didn't they just say they said that there's potential for Ukraine to join NATO, but even then acknowledged that it would take a very long time because Ukraine doesn't have the capacity to reciprocate NATO's terms. Another reason that it's quite, you could even say, like, again, you're being a realist, right? You're dealing with a country that's bordered with a fucking crazy, like, autocrat, and you want to trade with that country because was it like black soil, like a natural resource and shit? Yeah, you want to make sure that you're dealing with a country that's not going to get invaded. Of course, you'd be in your interest to allow Ukraine to join NATO. But they keep on acting as if this wouldn't have happened if only Ukraine stayed a buffer state. But again, like, Russia didn't annex Crimea because Ukraine was suddenly on the cusp of joining NATO. Russia annexed Crimea because Ukraine was leaning towards the EU economic deal and because they ousted a pro-Russian leader. Like, that's the problem with Ukraine being a buffer state, is they're threatened all the time by Russia.
Because these are
And
different
George
things.
as well. Why?
Because George
Ukraine
Bush,
as well?
I mean, George Bush has the, he has the, we're going to build, liberal democracies, liberal hegemony across the world.
That's what he'll say. But remember, NATO, from the Russian position, is basically the American empire, right?
But that's
No,
a stupid position.
that's a
to
pretty
have.
dumb position.
Okay, brilliant. Welcome to Russia. Right?
Okay, well,
They see NATO as an existential threat because it was formed to be an existential threat against Russia.
Well, it was a form to be a defense against the threat of Russia trying to take over the rest of fucking Europe, basically.
Right? And now NATO's taking it.
Yeah, I'm completely for this now. The lib-cuck position on NATO is actually, like, the most accurate. It's a defense alliance. It's not an empire. It's not there to wink, wink, Russia, we're going to invade you because that would be the first time we've ever invaded a nuclear power. No, it's a defense alliance. And it makes sense that you would want, well, it makes sense that those Eastern European countries would want to join it because it's guaranteed safety for places like Poland, for Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. So, yeah.
They're not
So
taking
how are the
country.
Russians going to
No,
look at that? Right?
the Russian army would march in and say, "Okay, you're going to be communist now," or the Soviets, I guess, back in those days. Okay,
And-
NATO basically countries say, "NATO, can we please join you?" And they say,
I
"Well, you got to
agree.
reform your country," and they say,
I
"Okay," and then they
agree.
get to join NATO.
That you said earlier, there is no neutral position, right?
Right.
And I agree that being a liberal democracy with all the money that America's going to provide definitely is a preferable option, right? But this is us speaking from our biases.
Of course.
This is
And
not
Ukraine's.
us respecting the Russian position.
Can we?
And it's okay if you don't respect Russia, you can just say it, right?
Can
I
we-
don't really respect Russia.
One second,
Right?
Sargon.
But-
Can we separate? Because there seems to be two different debates going on here. One is over this.
You know what I get? Like, I don't understand this. It's like every defense of Russia that people make, or every, like, stance that's similar to what Sargon takes, I've never heard anyone make these claims and also acknowledge and respect, we'll use this language, Ukraine. All of these arguments just are like the ultimate imperialist arguments because they're just talking about what the United States and Russia should agree on. Not even the EU most of the time. They don't even care about what the EU should be doing. Like, even though it was Ukraine's lean towards the European Union trade deal that triggered the annexation of Crimea. Yeah, it's just like completely talking past Ukraine. It's really fucking weird.
May the stars guide you.
This respect diplomacy type thing, which I'm not convinced that even if we had perfect diplomacy and showed utmost respect for Russia, things would be any different.
Yeah.
And then there is the motivation of Putin to stay in power and protect his legacy. So which you keep pivoting back to the respect
Get
thing,
'em.
as if America
Yes.
just respected more, things would be different. But that doesn't change anything on the side of the equation with the Putin staying in power, avoiding being Gaddafi. Respect has nothing to do with that. Diplomacy has nothing to do with that. So I'm
Well, I
curious
don't
on
agree.
which do you agree with us on the staying in power side of the equation? Do you agree that
Well,
Putin
obviously-
is in a
okay.
game where he's trying
Where
to
the
stay in
fuck is this
power,
triangulation
and
point?
ultimately a lot of his decision making is impacted by that game?
Yeah, I mean, Russia's basically
Everything-
a mafia state, right?
Okay, so
We
you
agree
agree
on
with
that,
us on
right?
that stuff then. So
That was
then,
my statement. You agree with
just
that,
the
right?
dis. So
hang on,
do you
hang on,
agree?
Adam,
Do you
hang
agree
on,
with us?
Hang on, right? I've spoken to, and I've watched lots of Russians talking about this until,
Mm-hmm.
of course, the Iron Curtain of the West came down. We can't get the media. And like someone like Konstantin Kissin from Trigonometry, right? He's Russian, right? He's a very pro-Western
I watched his
Russian.
talk. Yeah.
Trigonometry.
He does not think Putin is in
Stupid
any
name for a
danger of
channel.
being overthrown.
hmm
Does he know more about that than us?
Probably not. I mean,
Probably not.
is he an ex KGB member or something? I don't know.
Well, I mean, he's a Russian.
Yeah, but
he's got friends and
so is-
family in Russia. He speaks
Oh,
to them on a
okay.
daily.
Bro, like, if there's one thing you know, being from that country doesn't mean you know anything about how that country works, all right? Jesus. That's why you have massive political differences within countries. It's the stupidest point. Okay.
basis. Like they give him the barometer of what popular opinion in their areas are and
sure.
whatnot.
I mean, of
And
course,
he
lots
thinks
of
that Putin
random
is generally
stupid
quite
people.
popular with the
I
people.
live in
He thinks that
America,
this-
and I'm not sure. I have a $500 bet on whether or not Trump is going to run for president. Like, I don't have any
obviously-
inside information. But
he's obviously going to run. But the point is, I don't think Putin's position in Russia is in danger, right? He's been
Okay.
doing this for what 30 years. Like
Right.
he's manipulated the networks entirely to his favor. He's a very clever man, if
Right.
nothing else, right? He's a ruthless, I mean, on a personal level, I consider him evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on the level of what a Russian autocrat should be to be an effective autocrat of Russia, he is a very effective autocrat.
Mm-hmm.
And he has advanced Russia's position in the face of America's provocations, and they are provocative. And I'm sick of this narrative that America did nothing wrong, NATO did nothing wrong.
He hasn't advanced Russia's position. The entire world fucking hates Russia right now. Even China is like hesitant to support Russia in this invasion. They're like, fuck.
No, I think there has been, if you consider that the Russians deserve at least a modicum of respect, right, for their position and their history and the culture and the people. Right?
He's increased
that's
their.
But wait, this is the primary issue here. Why does us or NATO or US, quote unquote, respecting the legacy of the Russian Empire supersede all the people who live in the surrounding countries who want to be part of NATO?
Well, I mean, I'd say because otherwise it's going to be war with Russia.
Okay, so,
So
is
that's
the, so
appeasement.
is the only argument you're making
No,
is a
no, no.
purely physical, the consequences of this is that it could lead to a World War III argument?
No. I mean,
Is there a
that
moral
is one
argument you're making?
aspect of what I'm saying, right?
Okay.
But I think it's also bad for us. I don't really see what good it is to constantly pathologize Russia as some sort of evil pariah state, especially given how much we need them. Like, Europe is totally dependent on Russia.
I don't disagree with that.
I know.
The dependency is pretty overstated. Was it Germany had a no, yeah, no, like Germany has a lot of dependence on Russia, but the rest of us are like, no.
So why are we treating them like the bastard stepchildren?
America's position towards Russia literally only changed
Bastard stepchildren.
after they invaded Crimea. Before that, Americans weren't concerned about Russia being a threat or Russia being evil or an enemy.
Really?
Yes, there's the famous debate with Obama versus Mitt Romney, where Mitt Romney says we need to be worried about Russia, and Obama's like, the Cold War called, they want their policy back, and everyone laughed. He looked like a fucking buffoon.
But now, in the last, say, 5 years,
I mean, Obama was right at the time. Like Russia's stance on the United States changed like pretty radically between then and now.
what's the
Because of
American
Russia-
position?
Republicans won't recognize that though. They'll say Romney was right or whatever the fuck.
on Russia?
Direct actions of invading Crimea and destabilizing the region.
Why?
Opinions
I
have
don't,
changed.
I don't agree that was destabilization. right? And it doesn't matter. What's the American investment?
Then what? Does he not think that the contribution to the Donbass separatists was not destabilizing? Holy shit. Carl. You crazy fuck. All right. That's a scary laser beam. Whoa. Oh, God.
In Ukraine.
I'm not doing shit.
The American investment, well, America believes that the world would be better and safer if everyone is under a Western liberal democracy. This is what the
Okay,
liberal
so
hegemonic
imperialism.
theory is. That's not imperialism.
Yes, it is.
No.
Yes, it is.
That's not.
I cannot for the fucking life of me understand how America
Should-
gives two shits about
There-
Ukraine
is there-
if it's not to corral and hold Russia at bay.
So, well, wait a minute.
Why would you
Should
care?
America just say,
Trade.
listen, we know that that Russia was our main power competitor for the last 60, 70 years, and that brought us closer to the brink of global annihilation than any other point in all of human existence. But now they've thrown the towel, and we should just assume that they'll never grow up again to become that power, and we should just let them, start absorbing other countries and build back. the
Right,
power.
there we go. Right, okay. So it is about corralling Russia, pushing them back as far as they can be pushed back.
It's not pushing back, though, really. Like, the Russian border isn't changing. You could argue it's pushing them out of countries that already wanted to push them out. Like, it wasn't the Americans who pushed out Yanukovych. It was the fucking Ukrainians, and technically left himself. But
Right?
No, it's saying you can play in the sandbox with everyone else according to the rules that the world has abided by. And if you
That
don't,
America sets.
well, what the
okay, again, like, this invasion is being condemned by everyone. It's not being set by America. Like,
since America and the rest of
okay,
the
I'm
Western
in
liberal
favor of
democracy,
America.
believe it or not, Americans didn't invent the idea that you shouldn't invade other countries. Okay.
rules.
countries happen to be the most powerful in the world. And also,
Right.
since I believe in Western liberal democracy, I believe has the moral weight here. Okay,
So
is
that
you
it's
can
just
play
an
by
argument
our
from force
rules.
that we've boiled this down to.
You
We're
can
strong
play by
enough
our
to be able
rules.
to do it.
You can play by our rules, or you can fuck off.
So you're in favor of crushing Russia.
That's not
my
favor
God,
crushing Russia.
It's so
That's-
bad.
I'm taking
Sargon,
some,
that's
Sargon.
What
I'm
you're
taking,
saying is, if
I'm
it's not in
taking
favor of
the
crushing
realist
Russia, you're saying the
position
Russians have got no right to fight back.
I'm literally
Sargon,
taking
that's a
Fight
little-
John,
back
I'm,
against
little bad
taking
faith.
John Mischmeyer's perspective of
Mischmeyer.
offensive realism.
Right. So you're
Mischmeyer.
conquering the world in self-defense. Right.
You're not-
Again, to absolutely pin Russia
That
in
is-
a
that is-
great
that is
power
not-
into a
that is
corner. Right.
that is not a fair framing. Okay.
That is exactly
Saying
what's happening.
if you can't play by the fucking rules of freedom and democracy,
Right,
where you
the
engage
rules,
in free
American
trade,
rules.
you don't fucking
American
murder
rules
your own
America are
citizens,
set with
is
no respect
conquering
to
the
Russia.
world? Come
Right.
on.
No, this is a distinctly imperial mindset. It's incredibly high-handed.
Well, can we hold on?
It is
Let's
to-
can
it
we
is
get
to
some
give nothing
definitions?
to the Russians.
Sargon.
It is to take
Oh,
everything
yeah.
from them.
Get
No
to define
wonder
terms.
they're-
Oh, Adam,
Carl,
you
you've used the
dancer.
term imperialism a lot. I was under the impression imperialism was where a nation goes, takes over an area, installs a government, and basically rules over the people. That's not necessarily what we're doing.
I think that there are many kinds of imperialism, and I'm not interested in arguing the toss. This is definitely an imperialistic mindset.
Well,
Like-
how are you defining imperialism then? Because
I mean,
if
well, okay,
we're
well, since it was like-
incentivizing
So
them by
incredulous.
offering them
Okay, we'll call this Athenian
financial
imperialism,
aid,
if you like.
it's a different thing than if
Yeah,
we're
we'll call
going
this
in.
Athenian imperialism. Right?
Look, what's
So
it?
what
What's
the
it?
Athenians?
America's
Yeah, I'll explain
offering
it.
Ukraine financial aid to stop their corruption.
in exchange for becoming a liberal democracy.
Right. And Russia is invading the country and setting up a puppet government. Which of those is imperialism? I'm curious.
They're both imperialism.
Okay. But if we had to,
Can we not make a distinction between, like, soft and hard imperialism at least here? Oh, God.
rank order them, which is the worst
America
form
and Russia
of
are both
imperialism?
imperial powers.
Which
Well,
is a more favorable form of imperialism to the
cares?
local population?
cares?
The
He
local
doesn't wanna say
population
it.
cares. That's who cares.
Yes, so
Yes.
what?
Wait.
Oh, so what? There you go. I don't give a fuck about Ukrainians. Adam, you got him. You nailed him to the fucking wall. Or I guess he did it to himself because he's like... I was going to say a slur. Oh my God, my brain. Why am I doing that? Fucking hell. I'm going to do it one day. And all hell's going to break loose. I mean, it's not that bad. Warcraft brain. Oh, God. Oh, shit. I have a pass? What, because I'm autistic? I probably do, but I'd rather not. I don't know. I don't want... Oh, God.
That's not the question. Right?
You started
The
this
question-
conversation.
You started with the
wait,
imperialism line.
You started this conversation by saying,
No, I much prefer, like, I'm definitely following in the Chud logic footsteps. Is I'm going to threaten to say slurs and not actually ever say them. I think that's better, right? I think the slurs become louder when you do that. You know that thing that Zizek always says, like, the way he talks about how in Ukraine, like, the stamps had fucking Lenin and Stalin's head on them, and in order to, like, when they during, like, the Ukraine independence movement, and in order for Khrushchev to, like, appease the Ukrainians, he took away Stalin's face and put Lenin's face twice, and the paradox was that, like, the presence of Stalin was more apparent than ever. That's it. I'm doing that. I'm doing the fucking... Apparently that was true, though. Apparently, like, even in the Soviet Union, if someone spoke out against Stalin in public, but then someone else would say something like, wait, why would you say that to Comrade Stalin? Like, no one would ever challenge our glorious leader. Then, like, both of them would get disappeared because the person saying, why would you say that about Comrade Stalin, was actually making the tyranny, like, more apparent than the guy challenging him. Apparently there's, like, some, like, anecdotal story about the Soviet Union, like, where that kind of happened. So yeah, that's my approach to slurs. I'm just gonna, like, keep saying I'm gonna say them but not say them, and then that'll have more impact.
that this is the only alternative for Russia. Okay. And you agree with me that there's no neutral position. And part of the reason I think there's no neutral position is because Russia won't allow there to be a neutral position. So
Neither will
you
America.
can't, if there's only two options in the world, and it's your version of imperialism through saying, hey, be a Western democracy where you can trade and create a functioning society where your people are happy, or Russia fucking invade you, and these are your only two options, the American form of quote unquote imperialism is obviously the better solution here.
Well, gee, if you frame it like
Just,
that, I guess
just
it would.
say it. Just say it.
That's
Okay.
that's how you
Win.
agree to the framing.
The point, though,
You're the
is
one that brought up imperialism, Carl. I didn't want to go this route, but you forced it.
You're both imperial.
I have
powers.
one question while I have the floor here.
No.
Carl, does a governing system affect the population's economic conditions?
Right. I'm just going to answer the question that you asked first. Right. So you're both imperial powers. Like the Americans follow the Athenian model, and of course the Russians follow the Spartan model.
Oh my
Now,
God!
It means that you are.
The Athenian or the Spartan? Oh my God! Okay, at least he's safe now because no one has any fucking idea what that means. Neither does he, but at least he can. Carl.
Territory or you're trying to take territory right up to the Russian border, right? The Russians, not being clever or liberal or rich, don't know what else to do other than simply use force, because that's what they've always done, right? Ukraine, right? What I think would be the right thing to have done is for Ukraine to be pro-Russian, right? It is their hinterland. It is on their border. They have
there we go. Apparently you're okay. How is this not an imperialist position, Carl? You fucking idiot! Like, oh my God.
Ancient connection with that place.
Oh
America
my
has
God.
no fucking connection with that place, apart from Joe Biden's son.
Oh, Joe Biden's son. No, they do have a very historic connection to Russia. They have a historic connection of being completely fucked and, like, plundered by Russia, of having their language suppressed, of having their culture erased, of having people fucking, like, forced into serfdom, of having people genocided during the Holodomor. Like, holy shit. Yeah, I guess they do have a connection to Russia. Well done, Carl. Therefore, it would be in Ukraine's interest to be pro the country that did that to them. Yeah, okay.
Obviously, apart from the money that American elites are siphoning out of it, America has no connection with Ukraine, and it's got no.
It's also not siphoning. Like, Ukraine actually started to see some improvements. Mod check Tatars, yeah. Former Soviet countries are mostly not going to be pro-Russia. We've had enough of that. Yeah, I can't. Listen, don't tell me, all right? Tell Sargon. He's the one who's. I didn't say it. I'm not going to say it.
no particular
I
business.
mean, Russia has an
in
ancient
Ukraine.
connection fucking over Ukraine, so I'm not sure
Yeah,
that's good.
my guy.
Okay.
So what?
No, but so the American imperialism is basically America saying, "Hey, our system
The-
of
the
governance
Russians
and
won't
our
rest.
wait."
No, hang on. No, hang on.
Oh, you
The
finish.
Russians won't rest while they think that their immediate borders are, frankly, under enemy control. That's how they'll see it, right? Now, I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm just saying I think this is, right? And I think this, I mean, Putin
Okay.
has just outright said this about Ukraine, and they're obviously trying for regime change, right? They're not just.
Yeah,
you know,
they're doing
American style-
imperialism. Yes, by force.
Yes, you both are. Okay, it's not a moral judgment. Oh,
Yeah, but
doing
you're
imperialism.
saying
all
you're
doing
you're saying you're bad.
I love how they need to ask him what's the difference between like installing your own like puppet leader or letting the Ukrainians elect their own leader who happens to be pro-Western. Oh God.
for being imperialistic. At the same time, saying
But they're both
Russia is
imperialists,
totally
so, you know.
justified in being imperialistic. You're the one that
No.
has the contradiction.
Well, no, it's not a contradiction, right? You've got no particular interest in Ukraine other than some wildly abstract, like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if Ukraine was a liberal?
We don't
democracy?
want the Soviet Union to be a
But
threat again and destroy the
It's
world.
not going to be a threat again. Right?
How do you know
is-
that?
Russia's a crumbling nation.
And
That makes
what is
it
a
more
crumbling-
dangerous.
Yeah, what is a crumbling nation led
No,
by
it's
an
not more
autocrat
dangerous.
mafia
Russia,
boss
With
Russia
nukes.
bleeds,
Yeah.
bleeds
True.
people.
Well
It
done, Anna.
bleeds money. And what they're trying to do is to be able to literally to be able to hold their heads up high and say, "I'm proud to be a Russian." Right? That's what they're trying to do. And you're doing everything in your power to take.
This is complete. This is almost like the Kaiser's justification for World War One, of being a small country surrounded by like empires, France, fucking Britain, even Belgium, like just being like, oh, but why can't we have a little empire? Why? Like, no, not every country gets to have a fucking empire. Jesus Christ! Like the ones who have them shouldn't have had them anyway. But God, the Japanese Empire grind set. Oh God, yeah, this is like the Kaiser reasoning for like the lead up to World War One. Yeah, just a little Ukraine, you know, just a little treat, a little Ukraine to keep them quiet, you know. Why not?
So
away from
what?
them. And the thing is, right? They
Germany
were-
had the exact same motivation under Hitler, and look where they ended up.
No, I don't. World War One is a better comparison than Hitler's. I mean, Hitler is definitely part of it as well. Like, yeah.
No,
Like this,
they
this,
didn't-
this, yes, they did.
Jesus
oh,
Christ!
you-
I don't agree with that
Okay.
at all.
What do you mean? The whole,
I don't
oh,
think Putin's
the
a
Western,
Nazi.
the Western
Like,
powers fucked us over.
I love that. He's just like, he's trying to make a comparison between Hitler wanting to expand to restore national pride, which he absolutely did want to do. But Sargon needs to just say, oh, are you calling Putin a Nazi? Yeah, okay. Cope. Sargon must know that he's just making bad arguments when that happens, right? Like, you have to be so bad faith to hear that analogy, that comparison, which is completely accurate, and then to say, oh, are you accusing Hitler of like of Putin of doing like everything that Hitler did? No. It's a fucking analogy, Sargon. It's an isolated variable.
After the collapse in World War One, and we need to hold
Yeah,
our
but
heads
that's
up high
hardly
and identify
end
around a
of-
German
the end of,
identity.
Nazi
blah blah
aspirations,
blah.
It does sound straight from the rise and fall of the Third Reich. I mean, it's like
that's a very very reductive view of that. Right?
Yeah, I'm not
Well,
saying
that's
they're going to
being
become
reductive.
fucking genocidal. I'm just saying that's the same motivation that leads countries and people to do all sorts of crazy shit.
Oh, I'm gonna
Okay,
die.
so
Which this is
one
tough.
way of avoiding crazy shit
Uh-oh.
would be to respect them.
oh my God, that's so
Right? So they
naive.
can-
I can't even believe you're saying it, Carl.
What? So you don't think the Russians should be respected?
No,
I think they
it's
should be
naive to
respected,
think
but
that-
I don't
that
think it's
there's
going to
some-
change anything.
There's some form of
shit.
respect
What
that's
does-
going to solve this problem.
Yes.
Well, yeah, possibly,
Oh, God.
possibly
Respect
respecting the fact
harder
that they're a
is
great
not-
power.
Oh, God.
Right?
So if America, but what does that mean tangibly? Because if America says
That means tangibly not trying to take Ukraine into NATO.
okay, but so if America says, but wait a minute, if America says, because this all started in 2014, it had nothing to do with NATO. It had to do with Ukraine.
Decades.
This had to do with Ukraine over its own sovereign fucking volition, wanting to have closer economic ties with the EU because the EU is richer than Russia. And Russia saying, fuck you, we're not going to allow that. Okay. It had nothing to do with NATO at that period.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What?
So,
Debate Sargon. Oh yeah, don't worry. Just let me get in contact with fucking Sargon of Akkad. Maybe I should. I don't know how people get into these debates. Like, I guess they got into a big debate with Sargon because he was watching their stream and then asked for it. Hook me up. I don't know. Didn't he make a video about why he won't debate breadcheapers anymore? He did one with Jangles, but he had to make sure that it was a 2v2, and he took them on this really fucking obscure stream platform and was like muting people and shit. And he was just asking like really stupid questions. I don't know. Destiny's got a debate with Sargon in the works. Cool. Over Ukraine. That'll be fun.
Okay, so
well, I hate
so
to be,
so
I
we
hate to sound
so
callous
but,
about this,
but this
right?
is the problem.
But
when
nobody
you say
cares about Ukraine's opinion.
no, okay, but that's
Like,
why
this
this
is a
doesn't
moral
make any
cover
sense to me.
that the Americans
you're saying
did in
you're
order
saying
to take this province.
you're
right?
saying America and the West should respect Russia, but when you say that, what you mean is by respecting Russia, we should let them do whatever the fuck they want in their own sphere of influence and take
But
over
Russia-
and fuck over anyone they want.
Russia did not invade, or it's not going to invade Ukraine if Ukraine has a pro-Russian leadership, right? There's no
Yeah,
need.
and if they
Yeah, okay. What if Ukraine doesn't want a pro-Russian leadership? What a fucking cuck perspective. Oh, God. Cuck gone of blockhead.
don't have a pro-Russian leadership, then they do.
Yes, that's exactly.
If that were the case, Russia could just hold the threat of invasion over Ukraine in exchange for any concession that they want. They could just hold that threat over every country that they're bordered with that isn't in NATO and say that, like, wink, wink, little invasion around the corner, little sussy invasion coming around unless you fucking behave yourselves. Like, Jesus.
Exactly right.
I'm in trouble. Oh, God.
So fuck
Look at my
Ukraine,
health,
basically, is your
47.
position. Just tell them the fuck every country surrounding Russia.
Well, it's either
it's
that
too
or
bad.
fuck Russia, and fuck Russia ends up possibly in a much worse position than fuck Ukraine.
This is
No,
crazy.
but okay, but again,
There
if
are
you're
things-
just listen, if you're just making the argument to try to avoid World War III, fine, I understand that.
No, I'm trying.
But
to
you're
make the
making
argument
trying to
civilized
make
Russia.
some sort of deeper moral claim, which
shit.
I don't understand at all.
Yeah, I'm trying to make the argument civilized Russia, right?
Well,
I think
that's
it would be
our
good.
argument, though.
Yeah, but no, it's not.
And
Your
Putin
argument
is
crush Russia.
Putin. No, our argument is civilized Russia, and Putin is standing in the
No,
way.
you don't.
Russia will never become quote unquote civilized under Putin.
It can't. It can't.
do you know
Listen,
that?
listen.
do you know?
I asked you a question about governing systems. Do governing systems affect
hang on.
economic
You
conditions?
can't- hang on. No. You've just made a wild statement that
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can substantiate, right? You can't know what will be the case. But what Putin, I think, does do well for Russia is give them a sense of being competently led and that Russia can win victories against the great Satan.
Do people
It has
want?
nothing to do with
Do
civilized. So
people
what?
want?
But Putin pushes that narrative as well. Like, the reason Russians hate America is because of Putin. Like, that was part of his. That's part of it, how he stays in power. Like, it's so funny that Sargon's completely fallen for the trap. It's like, oh, well, Russians hate America, and therefore Putin gets to stand up as the enemy of America. Like, okay, why do they hate America? If you look back even 10 years, like, most Russians had a positive view of America.
Foreign
Also, what the fuck? Like, they keep on saying how much this has to do with America when it was like the EU was the one that was starting trade deals with Ukraine. And when it was Ukraine wanted to lean towards the EU that triggered the Maidan protests. It's like every time he has these discussions, like, he's the one doing the American and Russian imperialism. Trying to fucking insert America into this conversation, like, that has a lot more to do with the EU than it does about the States.
war
it
victories, or do
absolutely
they want
does.
better
It
economic
absolutely does,
conditions?
right?
So, Carl,
They're not. This isn't a material question, Adam.
Oh, definitely not.
And I
it
know that
is.
as an
You
God
American,
made,
forbid
you made
Sargon
the
gives
argument that
liberal-
Putin.
No,
you
no,
made
means
the
in the material
argument that
world.
Putin increased the people of Russia's economic conditions. You made that
I
argument.
don't, I'm not. No, I'm not making. I didn't make that argument at all. I made the argument that he could. Give
You said he was the
himself
best. You said he was the best that they've had. That they were in dire economic conditions.
Yeah,
when
but you just assumed that meant material conditions. I'm not talking. About
He means just that it gives the people like this sense of we're part of the Russian greater Russian Empire again.
Right.
Okay.
Because Russia can win victories over America. Right? Even if they're small, they're unbelievably small. Right? America has like, and I'm looking at this as a third.
That's what does he consider Ukraine installing a puppet regime an unbelievably small defeat? It's pretty fucking big to a country of 40 million people who don't want a Russian puppet leader. Okay.
Party, right? America has Russia so totally fucking whipped. I don't understand why you need to keep turning the
Why
screws.
is that again? I don't understand why it's a moral position to say that having the Russian people have a sense that they're not a dying empire is worth sacrificing all the populations around the country.
You're
That's
not
how is that moral?
sacrificing all the populations around the country. That's a ridiculous, extreme statement that doesn't.
No, they're literally invading Ukraine to do this very thing.
Because of what's happened, right?
Because they're not a pro-Russian government of their own volition anymore.
Yes. Okay, that's the case, right? But if you want the Russians to not feel like they're constantly under threat, as in to be in an emotional position where they might be receptive to American goods, American services, American moral innovation.
This is kind of like the "don't say gay" bill reasoning, isn't it? Like it just made me think. It's like a very strange connection, but thinking that like if you don't want parents to be threatened by teachers telling 5-year-olds about dildos and shit, then what we should do is just ban all like LGBT content for fucking 5 to 9-year-olds.
Innovations, because the thing is, right, it's not that the Russians don't recognize, it's not they're not European, right? They do recognize that these things would be good, but they also have undergone hardships like you wouldn't fucking believe, right? No matter what you do to the Russians, they will always be able to say, well, we've had worse. Always, in every situation. And they will just tough it out, right? The one virtue I think you could really attribute to Russia is stubbornness, right? They have undergone and come through the worst things that have ever happened to humanity. Like seriously, it's just it's just staggering that within living memory, people have been eating their own children, right? Do you like you?
The same could be saying Ukraine went through the fucking Holodomor.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
The tragedy that Ukraine has suffered under the fucking.
Okay, Sargon. Yes, moral realism. Consider the stubbornness of Ukrainians who went through the Holodomor and presenting to them that they'll be safe as long as they live under a Russian puppet government. Go on, Sargon. You could say everything he just said about Ukraine to a higher degree, I'd say, because Ukraine was under the thumb of Russia for a lot of that time. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. Shardlings. Oh, God. I need a Nova. Fuck. We're actually a good survival here.
Heel of Russia for the last three fucking
That's the
100 years
heel of
is
the Bolsheviks.
insane.
That's the Bolsheviks.
And the Tsars
Bolsheviks.
The Tsars were trying to
The
erase.
Tsars weren't starving them out ideologically.
Ideologically, the Tsars were the ones who were like forcing the Ukrainians, into serfdom. And if we're talking about the cultural, like the historical precedent, the Ukrainian Cossacks were so rebellious. What do you mean ideological starvation? What, like banning Ukrainian literature? That's what the Tsars did.
No, but they were
Right, no,
trying
they
to.
saw the
They were
Cossacks,
trying
I
to
agree,
erase their
right?
entire culture. They're trying to
Yeah,
make
but
it
then you've
illegal
got
to
the
speak
rest
Ukrainian.
of what's happened. That's just one thing, right? Like the Bolsheviks
Oh,
killed
that's just one thing. Yeah, okay.
something like 20 million Christians. They burned down
Christians.
dozens of cathedrals. Like, no, don't just go right because you're like, oh, look what they did to Ukraine. No, they did this to everything, the entire country. And then when you go back before that, you've got
That doesn't negate the fact that the Ukrainians would have a very strong historical precedent not to be under the thumb of Russia. Why the fuck does he think that matters? Like, oh, well, but Russian did that to everyone. Well, yeah, we're talking about Ukraine though, right? Oh, God. He must know he's being bad faith when he does that. There's no fucking way. Like, you can see pictures of Sargon. The head is attached to the body. It's, all the evidence would suggest that there is a brain somewhere inside there, even though it's very... I was going to say a slur, but I'm not going to do it. Stupid. I don't know. Whatever the word is. Deficient.
Got the tremendous, like, it literally, the
He's going to make me do it,
Tsars
guys.
owned the vodka industry. So they kept the entire country just in this perpetual state of drunken, like, depression. And then before that, you've got hundreds of years of Mongol domination. And it's just like, right, okay, this
You're talking
is
about Ukraine
shit.
now?
And so I'm not surprised the Russians are like, you know, we don't care. You're gonna treat us on our terms, and if you compromise with us, you know, then maybe we can both get some of what we want and walk away feeling like we got, you know, feeling like we didn't get fucking done over. Right?
Compromise
But
and
Americans
respect.
don't approach Russia like this at all.
You keep saying compromise and respect, but when you say compromise and respect, what you mean is let Russia take over the surrounding countries around.
Oh, you can take them over.
Okay.
It's not the same.
It's totally insane to me to say that a country just looking across its borders at the EU and at America and saying, we think that that's a better way of life. We want to start moving in that direction. You say that's imperialism on the same level as Russia rolling tanks into the country and saying, you're going to do what we say.
You have to have a Western liberal democracy, which means access to Western companies, access for Western.
Oh, wait, forcing the Ukrainians to have a liberal democracy, which they want. They've participated in elections like very fucking willingly. Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, you're imposing Western liberal democracy. Nice. Okay.
elites. What's the difference?
No, but if
It's
there's
about access
countries,
to Russian companies and Russian
you
elites.
cannot compare. No,
What's the difference? What's the difference between being under the thumb of a historically oppressive autocrat and being a liberal democracy? Carl! I'm not going to say it.
no, because you're saying we have to sacrifice all of these countries' self-determination and sovereignty just to appease this idea of the
You
Russian
don't think it
Empire
can be
in the
neutral?
minds of the population.
You don't think Ukraine can be neutral?
Nope.
I don't, because of
Definitely
Russia.
Then it doesn't have
Not
fucking
because of the
sovereignty,
West.
does it?
I don't think it could be neutral because
It's
of
dependent.
Russia.
I agree. It can't be neutral because of Russia,
Okay,
but it also can't be neutral because of America.
I disagree with that completely.
Right. Okay. See, America. This is always the point. America did nothing wrong. It's got no. We basically don't exist.
No, that's not what I mean. America's
That's
fine.
what you're saying.
America's fine being friends with horrible
No.
dictators.
America has no business in Ukraine.
It's not a question of that. That's the wrong framing. Ukraine of
To
its own
you,
choice.
it's a question to the Russians.
Ukraine of its own choice says we want
Fuck
to become
Ukraine's
more.
own choice.
Okay, so Ukraine's sovereignty is off the table. Is what you're saying.
You said it is. It can't be neutral, right?
It
Therefore,
doesn't
can
wa-
never really be solved.
Wait, a country being neutral, like if you have an allegiance, that doesn't stop you from being fucking sovereign. This is because Carl's a fucking Brexiteer. He thinks like EU countries have no sovereignty because they choose to be in the EU. Fuck me.
Sovereign.
I said there's no political party. There's no power base. There's no thought process
Yep.
in Ukraine that's saying we want to be the magical neutral state. Okay,
Yeah.
there's people in
can't.
Ukraine who want to be more of EU Western, and there's people that want to be more Russian. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground position
I
that anyone
agree.
has.
I agree. It's not really a sovereign state, then, is it?
Of course it is. What are you talking
No,
about?
it's not.
They're-
You're always look, a sovereign state would be able to say, "Well, look, we're not going to get involved in either side of a conflict," right?
It's not. No.
That
When
would
I
be a
say,
Well, they could do that if they weren't constantly under threat and fear of Russia. But they're a fucking small country that probably needs a lot of help since the Soviet Union rammed their economy. Of course they... Yeah, of course they need to get involved with other countries for that. Oh, shit. Oh, God. Ugh. 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 Jesus. The fear. Terror. Okay.
Sovereign choice.
No.
That wasn't coerced by either side.
wait,
That's the only way we
Ukraine
can
can
guarantee a sovereign choice.
Ukraine can say that they want to have closer economic ties with other countries.
Problem with this is I don't know. I forget where the thing I killed is. There he is. There, it's good. Okay.
Yes.
And everyone votes for that, and that's a sovereign fucking position.
I don't agree.
How is it
I
not?
think this is totally naive.
Okay,
Because-
okay, fucking hell. Okay, I don't like how these guys are not like, these guys are doing all right, but they're not great. Ask him if there are degrees of sovereignty. Ask him which one is more sovereign than the other. Okay, please. I disagree. I disagree with the framing of your question. A country's either sovereign or it's not. Okay.
Because, like
That's
you
what he would
said,
say.
there's no option to
God,
not.
he's so stupid. Oh, fuck.
You choose one or the other, and so they're going to choose the one that seems to be the most like pleasurable and
Well, but
provides
it-
the most
okay.
material benefits.
Okay,
Obviously.
so but if
but
that's
this
your
doesn't mean that
definition,
this is like an independent sovereign
but this is
choice.
this is
coercion.
weird. It's very weird that you're taking this position because you're basically. We had a debate very long time ago about whether free will exists, and you took the position that it does. And under the guise that it doesn't matter if people really have, people can just make the choice. Okay,
Yeah.
obviously no one has a completely free will choice that's detached from all of the environment, everything around them. Okay.
No, you're getting too convoluted, Sitch. Do you know who the fuck you're talking to, Sitch? Like, this guy is like stupid. He's compromised, Sitch. Ask him if there are degrees of sovereignty. Ask him if like you might have some like the difference between having a puppet regime that you didn't vote for versus a regime that you did vote for that's leaning towards the EU. Are these equally lacking in sovereignty? Okay, good.
And you're now making the opposite position. Like, yeah, under your definition of sovereignty, there would be no sovereignty for any fucking country in the world because countries always have to make decisions about what they think is better, what they think is worth over what exists currently. That's what sovereignty means.
I'm not arguing that countries have free will.
No, you're saying countries. You're saying no country.
Sovereignty.
Under your definition of sovereignty, no country has sovereignty.
That's not true. And you can
It is
think of
true.
it. If you spent 2 seconds, you could think of
Dylan is simping for me on his stream. What's he saying? What's he doing? What? What is this info, this insider information? Dylan Burns.
I swear to God.
Did Dylan just call Loner Box daddy is the poll in his chat?
That was actually a big concern when I broke up with, at least to me, broke up with Kat. It seems that the waves passed a little bit, but like, I was worried that once there's a Twitter post or a Discord post and not just a casual like, hey guys, we've separated, that it'll become an event, you know, which people gather around. For
Okay.
obvious reasons. And it was actually a concern to me, which, like, I don't like that. Like, because if you,
Interesting. Okay. Jesus.
examples.
I can't.
Of course you can. Try. Think of a country that espouses neutrality.
Try your
No,
best.
that's not. No. Because you said that if there's two choices presented to a country, and a
Is there actually, like... Yeah, Switzerland, yeah. I mean, Switzerland's not getting threatened with invasion, so... Neutrality. Like what? Bhutan? It's probably quite hard to be a completely new... Like, in Carl's view, to be a country that doesn't, like, involve itself with any other nations. You would say that, if you want to go by that logic, though, United States isn't even sovereign. The United States has all kinds of, like, global realities and even internal, like, political realities that they have to juggle with as well. They have fucking corporate interests. Like, how are they a sovereign state if, like, rich people can influence policymakers? Can you all just say the exact same thing? If we're going with this all or nothing sovereignty, funny how Switzerland and Bhutan are extremely hard to invade. Yeah.
and a country decides to go in one direction of its own volition, that's not sovereignty.
Sentinel Island. There we go.
Yeah, but this
And I'm
isn't-
saying that's not
this
a
isn't
fair
an
way of looking at what
uncoercive
sovereignty
situation.
is, because so much of life, so much of reality is we don't live in the Tom Jump objective perfect universe where we can all manifest our will by thought alone. We have to choose from the buffet of choices that reality presents us. And that's what sovereignty is. And that's what free will is. It's saying, I get to choose from this table what direction I want to go. And
there's no
Ukraine is
choice to
saying,
not.
I want to choose to have favorable relations with the EU. And Russia's saying, well, we're going to march tanks in here and take your choice away from you.
Yeah, but there's, like you said, it can't be neutral, right? Imagine,
Wow.
do you think
Dinosaur.
the Americans aren't meddling in some way in Ukraine, the
Here it
Ukrainian
is.
politicians?
Now this is what he needs. Americans are meddling. That's what you need, Sargon. Go on. Do it. To bring out the conspiracy theories, you fucking idiot. All right, nice.
Who chose to be pro-Russia.
I would imagine that that Russia and America and all countries
Right.
with power are meddling.
So now you're just as bad as each other, because that's all the Russians are doing.
One is meddling with incentives and one is using force, Sargon.
True.
So
There's
what?
Soft and hard power.
Why are you meddling?
There's a giant difference, don't you think?
Why are you meddling in Ukraine? What
I mean-
possible interest do you have in Ukraine?
What
Are
possible
you,
interest did we
you
have-
saying that there's no difference between forceful intervention and incentives? Like, that's crazy.
I'm saying war is a continuation of
What is this?
And
Now,
I said that
Uh-huh.
a country, if they cannot guarantee their own sovereignty,
What fucking debate is this? Taiwan. Oh, it's Jackson Binkle. All right, yeah.
without help, without
Yes.
support from another country like the United States Empire, then they should not be
His voice got a lot fucking lower recently. I guess because he's trying to do the Haas thing now.
their own country. That's exactly what I just fucking argued.
Do you see how that again? So America drops the support right now.
And I
Now,
said
you-
One more time. I
that
said-
a country, if they cannot guarantee their own sovereignty without help, without
Yes.
support from another country like the United States Empire, then they should not be their own country. That's exactly what I just fucking argued.
Bro, you're really fucked up. Okay. Then what? Then they have to be what? Like under the thumb of a country they don't want to be under the thumb of. Nice.
You're
Politics by
saying,
the
why
means.
can't we all just be isolationists? Is what you're saying.
No, I'm
That
saying
is what you're saying.
No,
I'm saying
never tell Sargon what you think his opinion is, because he'll just say no. He's a shapeshifter. He's a fucking phantom of a human. He's not actually a person. He's just this like bad worded fucking like husk of a human who will just wriggle and mold into whatever position he wants, and then as soon as you think you've pinned him down on a bad position, even though everything he's saying leads you up to that position, to that conclusion, he'll just be like, no, I'm not saying that. Yeah. He learned it from Jordan Peterson. I guess they all do that.
saying that I agree with your position that Ukraine can't be neutral, right? Which means it can't truly be sovereign, because it would never be able to make a decision that wasn't countermanded or coerced by one power or the other, right? So Ukraine's sovereignty, I think, is basically like Belgium, right? It's basically a fiction, okay? And it's a useful political fiction. I'm not saying it's not, right? And I'm not saying that ideally Ukraine shouldn't be sovereign. I think ideally it should. It would be nice if we had this perfect Westphalian order where no country ever crossed the borders of another country or interfered subversively with their inner workings and things like that. That'd be great, right? But that's not the world we live in. So let's not pretend that it is, right? And so the Americans, the American investment in Ukraine is subversive, right? It's going to be with money and promises and possibly who knows what spy games are going on and whatnot, right? But the Russian investment in Ukraine is a lot more direct and heavy, right? For America, Ukraine is what, 20,000 miles away, 10,000 miles away, something like that. This is
20,000 miles away. Bro. Sargon. 20,000 miles. Wait. Okay.
a big deal. But for Russia, it's literally 0 miles away. And a country that's constantly demonizing you is like, yeah, we're going to try and bring them into our fold, to our sphere of influence, into NATO, which is a very strong sphere of influence.
Strong.
Right? This is a legitimate security concern.
So Ukraine, again, as I said, the people in Ukraine were not even in favor of joining NATO until Russia invaded Crimea and took it over. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is Russia's own doing here. They're creating the situation that the Ukrainian people want
But
to
you're
turn away from
acting
them.
as if, again, this is like the hatchling argument, as if, oh, well, then nothing happened. The Russians have got no opinion on the expansion of NATO up until the annexation of Crimea.
So again, this started from them trying to
they-
have positive EU relations. It didn't have to do with
Ukraine is 10 parsecs to the east. Oh, God. Now, listen, you're in DC, right? Just go straight until you smell vodka.
NATO.
No, they are literally accusing NATO of being behind their moves. Right? Like
But- and
it
that's
is
not
reactions
true.
to NATO.
Russia.
I don't agree. I
Putin
think that
would
you can't say
find-
it's not true.
Putin had publicly stated, and Russia publicly stated that in 2008, when they said they weren't going to put Ukraine and Georgia on the map program to NATO, they said that's a good thing. They were on board with that. That was
Yeah.
the compromise solution. That was the quote
Yep.
unquote neutral position.
Neutral
Yeah.
position.
And there
And-
had been no change from that whatsoever until
Hey, somewhat self-aware with the gifted tier 1 sub. Thank you so much. I thought the sub hype was almost stopped. I thought we'd had a bit of a break from the generosity. Woo, keep going. 404 subs. Holy shit. There's a good animation on NATO and Russia's relations. Okay. Fluff, DM it to me on Discord. I'll look at it after this discussion.
Russia invaded Crimea.
Apart from Zelensky, right? Like the whole thing has been.
Yeah, once Russia starts invading Ukraine and starts funding separatists so that they're thrust into a civil war for the last 7 years, then Ukraine's like,
but
maybe we
you're-
should revisit this whole NATO thing.
Yeah, but this is bollocks though, right? Because
Bollocks.
like you can look at a map of just the expansion of NATO and see it creeping ever closer.
Yeah, you can just look at the map of NATO and just get upset and just cry because like it's going closer to Russia, even though Russian behavior has basically guaranteed that countries around that area will want to join NATO. Like NATO support now is like at unprecedented levels because of what Russia's doing. Every time Russia does something like this, every fucking country on its border wants to join NATO like desperately. They're right to. Fucking hell. And it's like that's the states acting within their own interests, i.e. not to get fucking invaded.
Closer to Russia's borders. And as far as the Russians are concerned, this is a violation.
It's such a. I don't know if you've seen the map. You know the map that shows you like Russia and then all the NATO drawings around it, and it just shows like Russia being circled on all sides by Russia. It's like such a massive fucking appeal to emotion. You know, it's like, oh, look at poor Russia getting fucking like squashed in by NATO. It's like they're not getting squashed in though. They're just countries that don't want to have to deal with a fucking like brutal empire right next to them.
Of repeated promises to not do this. And then you get Bush going, oh, well, you wanted to put on the fast track to joining NATO, which, as you said, they were rejected. But you can see the intention, you can see the will behind it. Like,
Yeah, but that's part of the benefit of the American system, is that you have Bush
who
who's
cares? Who
Yep.
cares?
Putin should care. This is the big difference here. We have Bush, who's the super
Our enemies
neocon.
should
He wants
agree
to
with
throw
us.
everyone in NATO. Then you have he can't run for office anymore. Obama comes into power.
Five
He has a
condensed
completely
litter gas.
different thought process on Russia. Tries to have positive relationship with Russia completely, and doesn't talk about fast tracking Georgia or Ukraine into NATO whatsoever. But with Putin,
okay,
you
but
only
I
have to
don't
deal with
think the
Putin
president
forever
is the
because he's
sole-
the authoritarian dictator.
Yeah, but the president isn't the sole architect of this. Like the
Well,
permanent
yeah, the other NATO countries
apparatus-
also are. But
No, but it's the permanent apparatus of the United States and its international policy, right? That no matter what president you have, you basically have the same foreign policy.
there's
That's what the Russians see.
from the but the problem here and with this
Well,
conversation
that's not true. Like people say Medvedev was like Putin's puppet and all that, but he clearly had a bit more autonomy than people would like to make out because the shift was so radical when Putin came
I
back.
still don't understand is there's no you're just describing reality, which I can agree with you could be true, but there's no moral prescription
the
here
anime laugh.
about why Russia gets to just dictate all its surrounding
Cackle.
countries' behavior and say you can't do what you want to do.
Because otherwise they start invading places. And it turns out that Joe Biden isn't prepared to go to war with Russia over Ukraine.
So we all just have to have
Really?
an idea of appeasement, basically. We have to appease the
This
insanity
isn't
that
what
is Vladimir
appeasement
Putin
is,
and
right?
Russia.
Appeasement is if Russia was like, everyone's just sat around doing nothing. And Russia's like, you know what, I think I might invade Turkey. And we're like, oh well, don't do that. Take a piece of Turkey instead, a historical piece. And then, well, yeah, like, and then I might invade Georgia. Well, take a piece of Georgia too. No, that's not what's happening, right?
That's exactly what's happening. They're taking a piece of they've taken Crimea. They're taking fucking Donbass. They've taken parts of Georgia. Wait, what? Why did you include Georgia in that analogy, Sargon? You fucking idiot! Why that happened? Oh God, Sargon of Blockhead. Fuck me.
We're the ones advancing on Russia.
No, we're not advancing. The world
Of course
is
we
changing.
are. NATO
No.
has advanced on Russia.
The world is
This is a
changing, and
fact.
countries
Okay, now is when you ask him, do you think NATO is preparing to invade Russia?
want to go in specific directions of their own choice. I know you don't care. You care so much about the thoughts and feelings of the Russian people, but you don't care at all about the sovereignty of all the countries that surround it.
No,
that don't want to be involved
that's
with
not
Russia.
the question. That's
That
just
is
not
the
fucking
question.
No, it's not. That's your moral cover for continuing to advance on Russia, right? But that's getting countries invaded, right? You giving these they just shut up. You know, it's bollocks. What?
It's not bollocks.
He's got nothing.
It
He's
had
just
nothing
crumbling.
to fucking do with NATO at all.
That's bollocks. That's
That is not bollocks.
That's
What are
just
you talking
American.
about?
Bollocks. That is not bollocks.
That's total bull.
No one was.
Oh, no.
Russia wasn't even making that claim in 2014 that anything to fucking do with NATO.
They've been making that claim for decades.
Literally
Them
them
decades.
taking
Made that claim
Crimea.
with George Bush
had-
in 2000.
How
okay?
did it have? How had the 2014
This has
Maidan
been
protest
on
have anything
the
to do with
forefront
NATO?
of Putin's
Yeah, it didn't
mind,
have anything
and
to
he's
do with
mentioned
NATO.
it for literally decades.
That's also not true. Like, Putin's obsession with NATO didn't come until quite recently. NATO is just the thing that fucking Russia talks about when they want to do something sussy or when their leader's in trouble. That's why Yeltsin brought up NATO, not because of anything that was happening across his borders. He brought it up because he was losing power. Putin brought up anti-American sentiment again because he was in trouble at home. It makes me think that Russia is donating to Patreons of people who are easily manipulated. Yeah, maybe.
And it's because America doesn't show Russia any respect. That's how they view
it's
it.
disrespect.
Right?
Okay.
And you've got, of course, everyone's got their reasons for everything. Well, this is my excuse for this. This is my excuse. Okay, big deal. Like, no matter what, it depends on whatever position you adopt, the excuses that you adopt. So, like,
Yeah, the shooting down of the plane in Turkey was one of the reasons that NATO became a problem. Yeah, that's like probably one of the best reasons you could give.
give me American excuses. Okay, yeah, they're good. They're real, you know, from the American perspective.
You're not giving me
But from
any
the
excuses.
Russian
You're just saying
perspective,
Russia's going to throw a
bollocks,
temper
right?
tantrum, and we just have to abide by it.
Yeah,
That's
but
what you're
people
saying.
die when Russia throws a temper tantrum. So
Yeah, and
you being like, yeah, well, we're just going to keep advancing, like fucking bullish idiots, and
It's
now
not
boom,
a
people
you're
die.
acting like the American army is positioned
idiot.
itself on the fucking, in Eastern Europe and is just marching closer and closer to Russia. When in reality, what's happening is countries that were once aligned with Russia saying, hey, we want to have our economies and our culture and our philosophy of governance to be more closely aligned with the West of their own fucking choice. And Russia's saying, I don't like that.
In 2020,
Okay.
right, the international community was discussing putting American nukes in Poland.
Yeah, when?
In 2020, I just said.
Mhm.
All right, don't act like Poland doesn't have NATO weapons. NATO has got 2 weeks ago from the Sun. NATO increases presence in Poland, more troops.
Wait. Let's just look at that. Nukes in Poland 20. Was this nukes or was it? Again, like, what is this rather than? Let's see, Poland. Okay. In May 15, the U.S. ambassador in Warsaw suggested relocating U.S. nuclear weapons base in Germany to Poland. One hopes this was a mistake made by political appointee unfamiliar with NATO and nuclear weapons issues, not a reflection of official U.S. government thinking. So one U.S. ambassador said it, but it wasn't official policy. Is that right? Where did this go? Where did this story go? I was going to look for Poland. Shut up.
if Russia views NATO as an existential threat, which I think it does,
What
and I
did
think
Russia
it's
do
fair for
the
it to,
day,
right?
the literal day Obama was
cares?
elected? What do you mean, who cares?
cares?
What do
He
you,
hasn't finished the question, Sargon, you fucking dipshit. Oh, God. These guys are your friends, Carl. Why are you losing your shit? That's such a classic Sargon tactic, though. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? According to media bias, nice.
No. You don't get to play this
countries
game
did they
where you
take?
say America did this, and then you ignore
Yeah, but
everything
you
that
won't
Russia
accept
did
America's
that
done
led
anything.
up to America's
You won't
response.
accept America has done anything.
I won't.
America has rolled the borders of NATO right up past where it said it wouldn't ever. But
No, okay, he's doing the thing again. He's doing the fake deal. Oh no, Sargon, you fucking dipshit. No, stop doing the fake deal. Didn't exist. Cope.
weapons and military.
The day
and you're just like,
Obama-
did nothing. It's
The
bollocks.
day Obama's elected, Russia moves nukes into the middle of fucking Europe, okay, violating a bunch of their treaties, just
Yeah.
to see what Obama would fucking do.
Yeah,
And
I
after
bet.
all that, does Obama go crazy on them?
Who
He says, no,
cares?
I want to have a reset of positive relations with Russia. And it starts working until Putin comes into power, and then he nixes the whole fucking thing.
Yeah. Why would he do that?
Because
Why?
he doesn't like the West.
Because-
he
Okay, no,
probably-
they need the answer here. The answer is because Putin was caught fucking with his pants down doing electoral fraud. That's why he did it.
he has
Trustworthy.
ideas that because from a material
America isn't
perspective,
trustworthy.
from
It's
a
already
material
broken a bunch of
perspective,
promises.
he's running his country like a mafia, and from an ideological perspective, he probably thinks everything that you're saying. He doesn't agree with the whole Western
It's also probably in sync with him, like lamenting the loss of the old Soviet Empire as well, though.
Yeah, I
liberal
think so.
hegemony and thinks America sucks.
No, he thinks America are a bunch of liars.
That's it.
Yeah, he does this as well. He'll take a statement that he agrees with and just go for a specific or just like use a different adjective, but say it as if it's a disagreement. Putin thinks America's bad. No, he thinks they're liars. So the same fucking thing. Are liars good? Jesus. I'm loving this though. I love watching Sargon just like get worse after doing this for 8 fucking years. It was really funny.
I mean, he literally called you an empire of lies,
Okay. Yeah, well, that's a lot of projection coming from Putin.
but it's also true.
the person
Like
who has
America is
fake
an empire of
elections
lies.
every
We-
4 years says that we're an empire of lies. Okay.
No, but this is literally what he recently just said.
Uh-huh.
Did you not listen to his empire of lies speech?
Yeah, I did. It was fucking crazy. It was just crazy.
No,
shit.
it wasn't crazy. It
Yeah,
was
it was
totally
crazy.
rational from the Russian perspective. But you don't respect their position at all. You call him a monster. You think that they don't have any right to have any kind of influence in the surrounding countries on their borders, which is historically unprecedented. And this
Wait, the fact that what do you think? They're just so what? Because imperialism happened in the past, it should just happen forever. What's the point here? Yeah, no, other countries don't really have a right to influence countries next to them unless the countries next to them want that. That's how it should be done. You could apply that same criticism to the United States or to the EU. You could do that. Yeah. Sargon will happily make this argument when he talks about the EU and the way they treated Greece, for example, or like Italy. It's just that he's the one being a hypocrite, though, because apparently Russia gets this God-given right for some reason because he feels bad for the poor little tiny dick empire that's failing and shit.
is leading them to feel like caged animals.
I don't think countries have a right to march their tanks into other countries that are trying to make their own decisions about the future that they want to go. Yeah, I don't respect that.
but-
I don't respect that position.
Then America is the worst offender in this regard.
I don't like when the fucking America does that shit either. This is
But
not a
then-
whataboutism.
Yeah, so you're
You
being
don't think
inconsistent,
America
Sargon.
should be destroyed.
No.
Then Russia shouldn't be destroyed.
We don't think Russia should be
So it's a
destroyed.
forgiven-
right?
Well, yeah, if America invades a country, it's right that like those people living in that country tried to stop them. Yeah. Like, yeah, of course, fucking Iraqi insurgents who fought against the American occupation. Yeah, of course you would expect them to do that. Like, it's their right to defend their country and shit. Yeah. Fuck. This is the point where like I don't know why they do this though. This whole like, what about what America does is like, well, if we take everything that you're saying about America as true, then you're the one being inconsistent. You're the one saying that there's somehow a difference when Russia does it because you're using different arguments for America that you would for Russia.
I don't think
Thing to do.
Russia or the
Hang on,
Who's
I don't
taking
think
this
Russia or the
position?
Russian people should
it's a
be killed or
forgivable thing
destroyed.
to do.
You're
to
the one
overthrow
framing them
governments
in
in other
this
countries.
fatalistic perspective that
Does Kevin Castley say that we should destroy Russia? That's funny. He's weird. I like him though. Apart from saying we should destroy Russia, that's probably quite weird.
there's no choice for them to change or to not do what they're doing, basically. I don't abide by that.
I don't think so. I think that Russia is basically locked on a course for war.
Okay, well, I don't agree with that.
Okay, well then what's your evidence for that?
That other countries can change, that people can change. They
Yeah, but
change
they're
from,
literally invading fucking Ukraine.
they changed
They've
from a
literally
czar
invaded
to being
Georgia, they've invaded
communism.
Crimea.
Okay?
They're actually in a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and they're surrounding the capital. I'm like, look, if we keep pushing Russia like this, they're going to go to war.
Barely surrounding the capital. They're trying and failing to surround the capital, Carl. Come on. Don't let your fucking simpage cloud your blurry, beady little eyes. Sorry, we can't be. No, we're not. If I actually go on an ableist arc that was inspired by Sargon of Akkad, oh god, I guess that'll be the most justified conditions. Right?
They're currently at war, and you're like, well, I think they can change. Based on what? I think it's the same old Russia that it's
Okay.
always been.
So according to your argument, they can't change, and we just have to fucking deal with them
As they
again.
are.
Not
That's
for
correct.
not for
I
World
think
War
you
III
should deal
reasons,
with
but
Russia
because
as they
there's
are.
some undetermined moral reason about why Russian sovereignty is more important than Ukrainian sovereignty.
We kind of are dealing with Russia as we are, aren't we? We're Velveteen Rabbit. Isn't that like anti-Semitic or something? I don't know. Is this anything other than appeasement? No, yeah. And Carl was fucking. Carl was being really fucking dense when it came to. Hey, I got level 70. Nice. Carl was being really like obtuse when it came to appeasement. Yeah, he said appeasement is like, oh, hypothetically, if Russia took a historical piece of Turkey or a historical piece of Georgia, even though Russia did take a bit of Georgia and then Crimea. So he said it's not appeasement because appeasement would be this, and then went on to describe something that Russia's currently doing. Yeah. That's exactly what Carl did because he's. Don't say it. Has Destiny been kicked off Twitch? This is on Dylan's Twitter. I think I saw this. Yeah. No longer being hippy dippy champion doesn't pay. True. What was he doing? I saw he was reeing about some fucking some Keffels shit. I don't know. It's a shame though, because I like Destiny's content, and he does strike me as a kind of like relatively thoughtful person, like most of the time. But then he just every now and then comes out looking like a complete cunt. Like I don't know why. I think it's because like I feel like he maybe starts to assume that people who see his tweets and all that should know his background. Whereas if you come and look at some of those like Twitter posts without any like knowledge of like what he like who he is or what he does, then yeah, he comes off like a complete fucking asshole. Yeah. Cannot exist without conflict. I don't know. That said, I don't know what Keffel's community did or what Keffels did, so yeah. Don't think he should be getting banned anyway. I doubt he did something that warrants a ban. We're free speech in this platform, guys. Sorry.
Or Lithuanian
this isn't about
sovereignty, or whoever's
Russian
around
sovereignty,
the fucking country.
right?
Of
And
course
it's
it
not
is.
really about Ukrainian sovereignty, as we've already discussed, right?
You don't want to make it about Ukrainian sovereignty.
It's not about it. Ukraine isn't a sovereign country. It's either with America or it's with Russia.
That's not what sovereignty.
He hate raided Keffels. Oh, well, that is against TOS, isn't it? He didn't know. He went off Twitch when he was talking to Fuentes. It wouldn't have been that. So okay, now look, people are fucking going back and forth. Oh God, why do I care? I don't care. It's not making me care. I saw the Keffels clip. Someone in Keffels' chat corrected her, and she walked it back like right away. I think Keffels was maybe telling her community to mass report him, which is kind of shit. His sub are coming up with all the different reasons he got banned. Oh, well. Wait, what? Fluff DMing me? Okay, well. Yeah. Oh, well. Listen. Just behave yourself, you know? That's what I say. Report his Twitter, not his Twitch. Okay, but that's like, I've given this theory before. That's your Amber Light theory, right? People, if you say to report someone on Twitter, they'll probably report on Twitch as well. Okay, you can expect that.
Sovereignty means.
That is what sovereignty means.
Right, okay. If this is long, I'll do it later. Oh. Oh yeah, because he said a naughty word on Twitter, right? Like, yeah, okay. Probably that's TOS. Okay, I'm not gonna. That was blurry. Okay, the naughty word was noodle. All right, so yeah, don't worry. What even is a hate raid? A hate raid is when you raid someone that you don't like and to get your fans to brigade their chat with like nasty shit. That's a hate raid. I know Discord are fucking brutal if you raid Discords, that they catch you raiding. Anyway.
Is it
Sovereignty,
he who makes
the
the
authority
final
of a state to
decision
govern itself
is
or
sovereign,
another state.
right? No,
all
but
it
that's the thing.
So he didn't raid her, but he did say a bad word on Twitter, and some people connected the Twitter to the Twitch. Maybe. Fuck knows. It's not because of Fuentes, though, because he went off Twitch when he was talking to Fuentes. Unless Twitch doesn't care about that, which would be weird. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Chechnya, Georgia, Ukraine. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Russia doesn't want the war. I know. Yeah.
Right? There is no way. I mean, look at what was it that Joe Biden did with the prosecutor? He threatened to withhold
don't.
$1 billion
No.
until they
Please
filed.
don't
Oh,
a
do
no.
that Fucking Victor Shokin shit.
That's the guy, right? That's being
But
coerced.
you're wrong about the Victor Shokin.
Oh,
stuff.
really? What am I wrong about? What did I say?
That call, first of all, that call that he gave with them was 3 months before he was fired, and they didn't fire him because of that. They fired him because Victor Shokin hired his professional chauffeur to be the number 2 lawyer in the state, and it
Right,
turned out
so-
he was blackmailing corporations into giving him
Right.
diamonds and paintings, and that lawyers for his office broke into his home and they found all this fucking blackmail material he was doing.
Right.
And the fact
So-
that Shokin wasn't doing anything about it is what led to him being fired.
Right. So Joe Biden's lying.
Of course he is.
So he's
He's a
just
politician.
wrong, right? He's no.
He's
no.
trying to play up his own accomplishments.
Okay, and America has no
Okay.
influence in Ukraine in that way. No coercive.
America, of course, America has
We
an
have
influence in
influence in
Ukraine.
Right. So you
Ukraine.
have coercive influence in Ukraine.
So,
Oh, now it's coercive. There's your fucking Mott and Bailey right there. Yeah. Nice. Well done, Sargon. You fucking dipshit.
Sargon, can we address this point since we're on
Sure.
it a little bit? Because the socialists often make a point. They say that capitalism is no different than slavery. They say wages are slavery. You know, opting into
Oh,
an
no.
employment contract.
This is why I don't like Adam Friended. I remember because he's like one of the worst like anti-socialist fucking arguers on the internet. Yeah, that's why I don't like him. Here it comes though. To be fair, I don't like it when Vosh does this as well. When he talks about whenever you ask about like freedom and capitalism, it's like, oh, the freedom to own slaves. It's like, no, these things are different. These things are pretty different. Like you can still say you don't like capitalism, but not because it's the same as slavery or comparable to slavery.
Contract is really coercive by nature. And typically when we argue against that on the show, we say, no, you can opt in. It's an incentive structure. It's not by force. Slavery is completely different. Slavery is when you abduct somebody and you force them to work for.
I know he doesn't say it's the same. I just think rhetorically he brings it up unnecessarily. Okay, that's all I'm saying. I don't think you need to mention slavery once or like the lords once to talk about capitalism. Like I think optically you just look kind of fucking dramatic when you do it. Like you just give them too much wiggle room when you say it like that.
For you
If you want to talk about capitalism as a socialist, you should say like, yeah, capitalism's cool. We can do better. I wonder why London Groip thought that he would get away with. Long Dong Groip. There you go. No, say it. Keep saying it because Twitch is like smart and let's see if it works. Okay, nice. Goodbye. Okay. Yeah.
at gunpoint, basically.
Long,
It's
dong,
it's a
right.
hugely different
Funny.
system. But I can't really distinguish the difference between what you're saying about imperialism and what we often say in the capitalist slavery realm. Because it seems like you're saying, imperialism at a bayonet is exactly the same as some sort of incentivized imperialism.
It's coercion either way.
So, but how
I'm not
come
saying-
how
I'm not
come
saying
how
the
come you're
Russians
not
are
on the side of the
worse.
debate? How come you're not
The
on?
Russians are obviously worse. Adam, just
Okay,
assume
there you
whenever
go.
anyone talks about Russia, right, that whatever happens in Russia is just worse.
So, but
Okay.
is
Right?
is
Russia is
in
a
the capitalist realm?
shithole country.
Okay.
Shithole country.
So this is what I don't understand, because, and this is where I get into the arguments with the utopian thinking communists. Reality itself is coercive. You have
Yes.
to eat or you die. Okay, that's the ultimate coercion. You have to literally kill an animal and steal its energy to survive.
Yes.
And so it's the same thing with it's better to have a system where you incentivize someone to do something. Say, hey, we think you should do X, and if you don't, then we're not going to give
I
you all this
agree with
aid
you.
money. Or
I'm pro-West
okay, then I don't understand the conversation that we're having at all.
because you're not trying to understand the Russian position.
No, I literally said
we understand it.
20 million times. I understand the position that you're stating. I just don't think it's morally equivalent.
Okay, but they do.
It is morally
They think-
equivalent
they
to
think
slavery.
it's
So
though.
morally
what?
justifiable.
Wait,
right?
so what?
What do you mean? So what?
The fucking people who want to have drag queen story
Again.
time for your kids think they're in the morally correct position. So
Okay.
what?
Right, but
What the fuck is wrong with a drag queen doing story time with kids? It's so weird. Like, it's a fucking drag queen. Do you know how, like, overdressed fucking drag queens are? God. These are the same parents who are okay with their kids watching fucking wrestling, right? Despite all the fucking, like, sexualization and shit that goes on there, right? Ugh. Lunatics. All right.
you are treating Russia like I would treat them. Like they don't deserve any respect. Like they should be crushed.
So,
What do you mean? So this
So
is
what?
leading to the invasion of various places. I really think that America's
Wait a minute.
handling of Russia since the fall of the Soviet Union has been massively counterproductive. It's been insufferable to watch Russia be pushed into the orbit of China, because Russians are Europeans, right? If the Russians were treated with like honey rather than vinegar, right? Attracted with honey rather than vinegar, right? I do think they would have become significantly more liberalized, but berating them for not already being liberal is not the way to do it.
well, we
Right?
just disagree. I don't think that
Trying-
was
Yeah,
the
but that's because
solution.
you're wrong, okay? It's because you're American.
It's not because
like,
you're no,
it-
because you
it's
have a
absolutely because
very
you're American.
one-sided view of
It's
this
because
and NATO
you're
and
just
America's
so
involvement with that.
you're distant from Europe. You don't understand the
That must be
cultures
it.
here. You don't understand the way the people think.
We're talking about
All
Russia.
you think about
okay,
is
we're not talking about where you
material
live.
goods. Right. So you don't have like a long history in dealing with these things.
Uh-huh.
Like we were fighting Russia like 200 years ago.
Okay,
Oh
that-
God, why is he appealing? Oh, you don't have. Yeah, you were, Carl. Okay, come on. Oh God, you're explaining. You don't understand. I've been fighting Russia for like since 1917. What a fucking LARPing dipshit. Oh God.
that has nothing to do with what the history of United States-Russian relations have been for the last 20 years.
There's been nothing but antagonistic, really.
That's not true.
And all you can be like
Yeah.
is, oh, Obama. Yeah, but half your country didn't agree with that.
It
Your
wasn't
deep
even-
state didn't
Clinton
agree
had a
with
very
NATO
The
positive
deep state,
relationship
oh
with
no.
Nixon.
with that,
What are you talking
right?
about?
No, look at the way things have ramped up. Like,
yeah, under Putin, things have wrapped up in a bad place. I agree.
But it's because of the constant bad faith that America approaches Russia with.
I think we
Like
have to.
saying we
I
won't
think
expand.
I think
Bro, we don't have the equivalent of American state media accusing the Russians of like fucking overthrowing democracies like completely baselessly and shit like that. Like Russia does that. Russia is the one saying that America like illegally overthrew Yanukovych like by funding the Euromaidan and by like fucking like George Soros and shit. Like we don't have the equivalent of that. Like Russia approaches America in bad faith, not the other way around. America does a little bit, but God. Ugh.
I think we have to fundamentally
ended up
disagree.
east.
Again, we keep oscillating between the if America would have just respected Russia more, none of this would have happened.
Yes.
And I think we have to fundamentally just agree to disagree on that because and we've talked about it on the show. I don't know how much you were listening to. I think Putin is being motivated by the stay in power game.
Yeah.
And
I'm
that
not
the
really interested
respect
in
game is just
psychoanalyzing those.
subterfuge for it. Well, hold on a second. You can't come on and say that we don't understand the Russian perspective. We're just stupid Americans. You're going to explain it to us and then not care about the psychoanalyzing of the Russian perspective. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, why don't we just
Like
take
you're-
It's not even a it's not psychoanalysis. It's dictator's handbook.
Yeah, but that is psychoanalysis in a form. But why
No,
don't
it's
we
not.
take
It's
them at
just
their
how
word?
dictators stay in power.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're assuming that there is a threat internally to Putin's power, and Russians that I know just say there isn't.
There's
Well,
wait.
Okay, so there's no point.
Is
being like,
is
oh,
any
there's a
is
threat.
one man an island? Is one man a king? Of
It
course
does-
not.
No man
yeah,
rules
Putin,
alone.
He's an autocrat, isn't he?
No
Like,
man
he has
rules
to-
alone.
He has to
Right.
pay people to do shit.
Of course
for
he
him.
does.
Okay.
Right, but
Well,
that
then
doesn't
he has
mean.
to shore that up.
So what? He spent 30 years doing that. Like,
Right, so
Putin
Russia's
has
in a-
actually expanded
wait.
Russia's influence.
Russia is in an economic decline, even before 2014. Was in an economic decline. Was in a complete. The population is fucking.
Yeah.
They're literally lying
Yeah.
about their birth rates.
Yeah, I
because
know.
their fucking birth rates are. So
I know.
Yeah.
Damn.
I don't believe the kind of John Mischmeyer idea
Mischmeyer.
that if we just said, "Hey, America," if America just said, "We're not going to do
Mischmeyer. I love
anything,"
it.
that Russia
Brilliant.
would just sink off into obscurity and die a slow death, and
Why
that
not?
Putin wouldn't start lashing out and taking over other countries
Why?
when he needs to. I don't believe that that was ever
Why?
a realistic world because he's
Why?
going to have to start shoring up his own power base when he starts running out of money, when Ukraine starts threatening the fact that they're going to be a competitor in the oil market, when Georgia starts threatening that they're going to be a competitor in the oil market, which is Putin's main source of economic influence and power. Of course, he's going to start taking over these countries and attacking them.
I would have to check that, frankly.
Okay.
But I don't know how much oil is a major export of Russia's. But I mean, I know gas is a huge export to Europe, but and wheat as well, of course. But
Wheat.
Is capitalism
the
a
point-
positive force in the world? I mean, that's
we're not
part of
changing
this
the
too.
subject, Adam. Right.
Well, no, that
We're not
is
changing
part
the
of
Oh,
it.
no,
This
no,
really
don't
is.
get
I
away
mean,
from
when
the
you're
fucking
talking about
capitalism
Western
segment, guys.
liberal
Don't do it.
We're not
democracy,
communists.
Please
but
don't
they
do
don't.
it.
Capitalist either.
They don't have a capitalist system. They don't.
Bro.
No, they've got a thugocracy. It's a kleptocracy.
Yes, it's a kleptocracy. Exactly.
Wait, a kleptocracy is not incompatible with capitalism. Come on. Fuck these guys. You like capitalism? Fair dues, okay? But accept it in all its forms. Congo is a capitalist country. It's not a liberal democracy, is what you're trying to say, but it's still a capitalist country. Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Right. That's not
Okay,
the
there we
question.
go. They're getting
The,
on.
the-
They're
the
getting.
question is one of national pride.
They're burying the hatchet. National pride. Oh no.
For the Russians, right? I don't think they would have been invading countries. I think what they would have done is bribing countries, like they did with Ukraine. Incidentally, there are examples of them doing this, and this is basically just the American model, right?
Well,
but just from the Russian perspective.
I'm
right?
bringing up the
Does
capitalist.
anyone? I actually thought this was a thing, but I couldn't find it the other day. Does anyone actually have proof that it was Putin who ordered Yanukovych to? It was Putin who told Yanukovych to get the cops to fire on protesters. Was that actually a thing, or was it just Yanukovych's decision? Or is it assumed that Putin told him to do it, or what? Does anyone actually know the answer to that?
Thing because it is a source of national pride. When your country is destitute without economic power, of course you're going to lose national pride. But that's like a meritocracy argument.
Yeah, but
What?
with the bribing thing. So in 2014, when Russia, or 2013, when Russia starts bribing Ukraine, the Ukrainian, and it works on Yanukovych, the Ukrainian people like.
He said, "Stop being." Do you have a source for that? Is that actually like a direct quote? He said, "Stop being a doormat." I mean, that's enough to say, like, do something fucking brutal, right? Fucking hell. I can't imagine why even politicians wouldn't want to be a Putin stooge. Oh, God. It's widely assumed by Putin experts that he pressured him into it. Okay, I'll have a look again. If I'm honest, I didn't look hard enough, probably. Don't be a doormat, Russia warns cash-starved Kyiv. Russia warned Ukraine's president not to let opponents walk over him like a doormat. Its strongest signal yet on Thursday that Moscow wants order on the streets before handing over more cash to stave off bankruptcy. In an increasingly bitter struggle for influence in Ukraine between Russia and the West, Moscow upped the ante by directly linking a delivery of $2 billion in loans to the end of protests, which Moscow portrays as led by dangerous extremists. Oh, thanks, 607 Realtor. I really appreciate the comment. Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev said Russia could only deal with legitimate and effective authorities, a leadership which people aren't wiping their feet on like a doormat. Okay. It was a powerful image of how far the Kremlin feels Viktor Yanukovych may have dithered into losing control to crowds who have held their ground in central Kyiv, driving back riot police who have taken hundreds of casualties. President Vladimir Putin's spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, put it even more bluntly. The Kremlin's priority was now conflict resolution, and only after order was restored could there be a peaceful, constructive dialogue. Yanukovych on Wednesday warned Ukrainians that advisors were urging him to crack down. Okay. And that he would end a policy of restraint if opposition leaders did not distance themselves from radical armed elements on the streets. Sources with close knowledge of arrangements to provide Ukraine with the second tranche of $15 billion funding program said the decision was now out of finance ministry's hands and had become a political one. Okay. Given the way the situation has developed, we've put the brakes on. We've called it off for now, but does that mean that the process cannot resume? That does not mean the process cannot resume. The situation has to become clearer. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like he was being pressured to stand his ground or whatever. Listen, this fucking debate goes on for another, like, it's only halfway through. And I don't know if I can sit through this for another, like, 2 hours. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I think we've got what we came here for, though, right? I think we're all right for now. Jesus. Look, we're there. It's got another hour and a bit. And it does look like they're just going to keep on looping at this point. Sargon is so fucking stupid. Oh, God. I found it hard to believe that he would get worse, but my, he did.